This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by.
Can I welcome everyone to the Police and Crime Committee meeting. This morning we will be holding our monthly question and answer session with the Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime. Please make sure that your electronic devices are switched to silent mode to avoid any interruptions. Can I now ask our clerk, Lauren Harvey, if any apologies have been received?
Thank you, Chair. We've received no apologies for absence, but apologies for lateness from Assemblymember Lord Bailey.
Thank you. Can I ask the committee to note the recommendation set out at item 2 and ask if members have any other interest to declare? Can we confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of December, 18th December and 19th of December 2025 to be signed by me as correct records?
Agreed.
Can we note the ongoing and closed actions arising from previous meetings of the committee? We now move on to our main item of business, and I'd like to welcome our guest, Kaya Comer-Schwartz, Deputy Mayor for Policing and Crime. Welcome, Deputy Mayor. Later this morning, we will also be joined by Amana Humayun, who is the Chief Financial Officer for MOPAC. So, our first section is about homicides in London. Excuse me. My apologies. Yes, we have. There's a. Thank you very much for reminding me. Apologies, Deputy Mayor. As we know, there has been a white paper that's been announced in the last few days by the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood. We would like you to make a statement in relation to this, and then I will open the floor to questions from the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The Mayor and I welcome the release of the government's police reform white paper. There's no doubting the bravery and selflessness that officers who put themselves in harm's way to keep the rest of ourselves safe every day. But we know that they're currently doing this within antiquated systems that require improvements. We need to ensure that our officers are supported by a policing system that can tackle the ever-changing nature of crime, and this is what the White Paper sets out to do. The White Paper echoes the commitments that the Mayor, the Commissioner and I have to strengthen neighbourhood policing, and I'm pleased to see that the government is continuing to prioritise increasing visibility in our communities, which is what we heard directly from Londoners that they want. I also welcome the commitment in terms of modernising legislation, removing the bureaucratic barriers and enhancing the use of modern technologies to support policing and allow officers to focus on fighting crime, not being stuck behind desks. The Met have already begun to make significant advancement in the use of technology and AI, such as through the use of live facial recognition deployments, of which there was over 1,100 arrests in 2025. The proposals for the new National Policing Service brings together a number of national support and operational functions with the objective of improving effectiveness and efficiency. Within this, it is suggested that counter-terrorism police will move to the NPS at a later stage, and we will engage closely with the Home Office on this proposal, as currently CTP is within the Met, who provide a world-leading and highly effective command in this area. The NPS, it's a bit, I'm saying N, I just want to, broader functions will take pressure off local forces and allow them to continue to provide a higher level of neighbourhood policing. So I look forward to working with government to ensure the forces provide the best possible service for Londoners. However, I am under no illusion that this will be a quick fix. The reforms contained in the White Paper are significant for policing, not in just London, but in England and Wales. The government has been clear that the aims of this paper will take time to implement and achieve, and the Mayor and I are committed to working with government alongside the Commissioner and his senior leadership team to ensure that this brings about a new model of policing that improves how the police tackle crime and brings offenders to justice and protects Londoners. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I now open the floor to questions. I've seen Assemblymember Hall first.
Thank you. Good morning. I haven't had time to go through it in great detail, but I am very concerned at many of the issues. But understandably, for time, I can only ask one question today. So part of it says, to achieve this, the Home Secretary requires the right set of powers to intervene in the policing system where necessary. So can I ask you, is this the death of operational independence of the police service, with the Home Secretary announcing her plans to empower her office and influence operational policing decisions?
Thank you for your question. I think we need to, as you said, this is a paper that's only come out earlier this week, and we need time to fully digest it. And as I said, it will take a long time for these things to be worked through. I believe there's an initial review happening, independent review that will look to work through some of these issues. I think accountability is always important, as well as operational independence. And I think that it's understandable, given the centralisation of some of the operational functions, that the Home Secretary will look to have greater oversight in that. But these are details we need to work through.
But do you think, to go back to the question, do you think that it will really cause the death of operational independence, for which the police have always been so grateful for which the Mayor hides behind so very often when we ask questions?
I think we all recognise the importance of operational independence, and this is really about making sure there's accountability, which is something that the Mayor, obviously through the work that we do with him in MOPAC, is extremely passionate about, and will work with government to understand further what the accountability structures will be.
OK, I'm sure we'll be asking more questions another time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assemblymember Roberts.
Thank you, and good morning. I noticed at the very beginning of your preamble you said that you welcome the reforms. There will be a necessary reduction in funding for the Metropolitan Police as a result of the removal of the counter-terrorism aspect of their work. And also there'll be a necessary reduction in the career progression for many police officers who may come into the Metropolitan Police with the idea of moving on to the roles which are going to be removed from the Met's remit. So can we be given assurances that reductions of funding, which we've been through various guises of reform of the Met and separation of the powers over the entire history of this body. Can you give an assurance that there won't be a need for further tough choices as a result of the removal of funding from the Metropolitan Police?
As I previously stated, this paper only came out earlier this week. I think it's really important that we work through the implications of it, and especially given how long it will take to move some of these functions around. I think, what's really important is, given the work that I do as chair of the contest board, that we really understand how the CTP function continues to work for London because of it being a capital city and the risks involved around that. But as I've said previously, I think it's really important that we continue, as we always do, to make the case for London, given its distinct nature as a capital city, and continue to work with government as they work through the details of this bill.
But given that, sorry, Chair, just very quickly, but given that it's something that you're still working through, is it not surely then premature to say that you welcome all of the recommendations in the paper, which you did at the very beginning of your statement?
I welcome the fact that they're taking on this really important need to look at how we modernise policing across the UK. I welcome the focus on neighbourhood policing. I think that's something that I've been very clear in this committee several times is exceptionally important to Londoners. And I think I welcome the drive to push forward with efficiency and effectiveness. And I think it's really important that, as our role as a regional authority, that we work with government to make sure that this, as it progresses through Parliament, gets the nuance and context of London and policing in London as part of those discussions.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assembly Member Wilson.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Kaya. As you intimated, there's a lot in this white paper, a lot of things to digest and get through and work out what implications it has, including those that Assemblymember Roberts has raised about budgetary implications. So I'm not going to jump to conclusions yet on any of the individual recommendations, but my question is more about the process. You've said that you're looking forward to working with the government. Great. Has there been any work with the government so far in advance of this? We've only just seen it this week, so it's new to us. But has there been any engagement between the Met, MOPAC, the Home Office, yourself, leading to where we've got to this week so far?
Yes, I believe that the Commissioner has been involved in some of the pre-discussions about the white paper, as have we. But that's, for the Home Office to now move forward. And as I said, the first stage of this, I understand, will be an independent review, and that's something that we will look to contribute to.
As we know how many times in the run-up to the general election, Sadiq was constantly saying what a wonderful thing it would be to have a Labour government working hand in glove with a Labour mayor. So on the political level, interested to know, has there been that engagement? Because I'd be absolutely staggered if it hadn't, given the hugely wide-ranging implications of this and what the mayor had previously said about welcoming a Labour government to work together. It's all very well working together going forwards, but when something's been sprung on us at short notice, I'd like to know what political engagement there's been that's got us to where we are.
I'm sure you'll understand, Assemblymember Wilson, that MOPAC officials and the Mayor himself work regularly with the Home Office, and so in the context of that we have regular discussions on all areas of policing, and that I'm sure has fed into some of the thinking, but this is legislation, and it's put forward by the Home Secretary of the day, and this, as I say, now will progress through the parliamentary system, and we will work with the Home Office and others to make sure that we're making the best case for London and ensuring that we are clear on our priorities in that.
It's just that...
Assemblymember Wilson, I'm sorry, we must move on. We've got 4 minutes and 2 more people to ask. Thank you. Assemblymember Duval.
I was intrigued in some of the announcements in the newspapers. They may have got it slightly wrong, but there are implications around public order. Now, given London is the capital city where most of those public order issues are, and I couldn't quite work out whether it meant the NCA would have some control over demonstrations or public order gatherings. What's your understanding of that at this moment in time? It's devil in the detail for a number of these issues in that sense. This is one bit of the detail that worries me, partly because the impact around public order realm extractions from our safer neighbourhood teams, which we've had in the past and we grapple with, and probably have only got it into a proper process now of where we can understand what the impact is on our neighbourhoods.
Thank you. I mean, I think you're right that the devil will be in the detail, Assemblymember Duval. I think it's really important that, as I said previously, given that we are the capital city, given that we have a disproportionate amount of things like public order to the rest of the country, that we continue to talk to government about how those functions will work in practice. I think it's obviously ensuring that, as I've said previously, that the paper focuses on making sure that we have neighbourhood policing as a priority, so we need to make sure that we're making a clear case of how that might work. I know overall, nationally, there has been an obvious uplift in protests across the country, so I think it's making sure whatever the new functions or structures are, that they give due regard to what we deal with in London.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblymember Garbutt.
Thank you and morning. Following on from some other Assembly members, I'm interested in what you might have raised with regards to the failings in our complaints process. This is something that I've raised a few times now, just that, that no one at Charing Cross had complained, that power imbalance between the police and the public, leading to the fact that the complaints aren't happening. And there is some vague statements in here about kind of enhancing transparency and, scrutiny, but do you think this is going to do enough to improve that element of the relationship between the police and the public, and how that's such an important way of holding the police to account and, ensuring people aren't being mistreated?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously this is a national paper, and I think it's really important that we take due regard for the significant changes that will be made in policing across the country. But I think that they're moving to a model that we have led the way in, and I think we have a lot of experience that I want to share with colleagues going forward when they move into the mayoral model. And the cornerstone of that, I think, as shown by today, has to be accountability and transparency. And we'll continue to push to make sure that at a local level, at a regional level, that we continue to do the work that we've talked about previously in this committee in terms of improving community transparency and scrutiny, that we'll be moving ahead with rolling out this year in terms of setting up those panels.
Yeah, so that's what worries me a bit, because I think the complaints process in the Met, it doesn't function. I think people don't use it because of the power imbalance, and it's not a system that functions properly. So it does worry me a bit that if they're going to take the Met as an example in that. I know we don't have much time to get into the details here, but just things like when people have complained about, to me about, how they've been treated in protests, and I've gone to you about it. You've said for them to use the complaints process, but then we're still seeing the same thing. So I just worry that it's not going to do enough to solve that really important issue. I
mean, I think we need to continue to make sure that we're doing all we can to make sure that those systems are as robust as possible. I think it's really important, that's why MOPAC funds Crime Stoppers as well, so there's that independent charity making sure that they can deal with that, and we continue to, through MOPAC, push the Metropolitan Police on what they're doing to improve trust and confidence, and obviously systems of complaints are a key part of that.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Assembly members, for your brevity in questioning. Without any doubt, we will be coming back to these issues in the future. So moving on to the themes that we have now. So the first is about homicides in London. Deputy Mayor, what targeted actions will the Met be taking to ensure the reduction in homicides continue?
Thank you. Chair, I want to firstly recognise that the significant decrease we saw in 2025, going only having 97 homicides, the lowest number since 2014, and the fewest murders of under 25 this century, is a significant achievement for the Metropolitan Police Service. That isn't to disregard that those 97 individuals have loved ones, family members that are heartbroken and bereft. And as someone, as I know, I've said previously, who've met those families, I know the one thing that they all talk about is how they don't want that to happen to anyone else, and that really is something that through my work I hold really dear, and I don't want us at all to think that we're being complacent in this work. We have to continue to do that, and the work that the Metropolitan Police Service have done in there, I know the Commissioner talks about tackling serious men of violence, and the work that he's led in terms of ensuring that the most dangerous offenders, an extra 1,000 arrests have been happening every month, disrupting gang networks, ensuring the safeguarding of vulnerable people, and using cutting-edge technology and intelligence-led policing have had a significant increase. Have led to the significant decrease in homicides, and that's really important, as well as making sure that this work, moreover, on violence is taken forward. We obviously, and I'm sure we'll come on to talk about it, the work we do in VOG, and also that we've seen not only a reduction in homicides, but a reduction in the amount of entrance into hospitals as well. So we're backing those stats up with NHS professionals and making sure we're triangulating that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Assembly Member Small-Edwards.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Deputy Mayor. We have murders in London at record low levels. What role, if any, has the use of live facial recognition cameras played in that reduction?
Yes, so we obviously use the police use live facial recognition focused on data, so they use it in crime hotspots. The force has deployed that 962 arrests on the back of those deployments last year. And that's already gone up at the start of this year to 1,100 arrests. Obviously, the way the live facial recognition works is on a database of wanted offenders. So we know that a number of those are involved in crimes in relation to violence and VOG moreover. So yes, it has been a key part of the work that they've been doing to reduce the amount of homicide and violence happening.
Thank you. And I believe the Mayor's draft budget has £30 million allocated it for capital investment in innovative technology. And I think the quote includes things like artificial intelligence and automation to improve operational efficiency. How do you see that money being spent, and how do you see the role of technology playing in policing in the years to come?
Obviously, the work that we're doing to improve the technology of the police force is quite wide-ranging. I would say it, like we've used in the GLA, some of it is about ensuring the administrative functions of the Metropolitan Police are more effective through transcription, reduction, screening of calls, that kind of thing. But we're also ensuring that the proposals coming around precision policing, making sure that we have better technological systems to help officers on the front line have the most information going into situations, are some of the things that the Metropolitan Police are working up as part of the new budget proposals.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assembly Member Garbett.
Thank you. I just wanted to pick up on some of what you were saying around crime hotspots that are used for LFR, and what crimes inform the hotspot, and also just to kind of discuss the crimes that predominantly LFR are picking up are around theft. So I just wanted to see if you've got that information, if that confirms what you understand around how LFR is being used.
Yeah, so they use a data-led approach to the deployment of LFR. They tend to use it in high-volume areas as well because of the use of the technology. You need it to be in a space where there's a lot of people coming forward. I haven't got a breakdown of the offences that LFR has picked up, but I can get you that information. I know it's obviously been really important in the work that they've been doing to tackle VORG, and also sexual offenders as well is a significant area where they've been seen an increase because it's based on those people who are wanted for offenders or might be in breach of conditions.
And do you see any issue with the fact that a consultation is out from the Home Office about LFR, closes on the 12th of February, about whether there should be more legislation around its use, and there's also a live case going through court at the moment around the misidentification of a person in London. Do you see any conflict between that and the fact that the Mayor and the government are committing to further LFR without any conclusion from that consultation or from the court case? Seems a bit disingenuous.
I mean, I think that this is something that we have, we've pushed with our oversight of LFR throughout its deployment. MOPAC's done its own evaluations and fed back into the police about it. It's gone to the London Ethics Panel as well, which I know you've seen the report on. And I think, there's always going to be in policing continued use of tactics that by its very nature in contact with people that need constant review, and whether that whether people want to bring up judicial reviews in that or consultations, I think that refining those models continually is an important part of the process.
It's just the fact that there's no primary legislation or legal framework for them to operate in, which is what the consultation is kind of talking about. So for me, it feels like a bit of a conflict between, the discussion about rollout in line with those things not concluding. But I'll go back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Assembly Member Desai.
Thank you. Good morning. How is the Met using data from other policing programs, one being the V100, to support the reduction in homicides?
Thank you. The V100 has been a significant programme where they've used data to look at the highest harm offenders in VORG offences. So they've used all the data that they have on those potential perpetrators, not only to identify who's likely to be the highest harm, but also to look at any way in which they can disrupt that behaviour. So they look at how, it might not be that they could have enough evidence to tackle that person directly on a VORG offence, but what other criminal convictions could they get them on so that they can disrupt the harm that they're doing. So far, 182 subjects have been convicted on the back of this work, and 193 people have been charged with offences which include rape, GBH, non-fatal strangulation and attempted murder. So, you can see the extreme harms that the police are working to disrupt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assembly Member Best.
Thank you. Just coming back to the live facial recognition quickly, the breakdown of cases, I know you said that you didn't have a list there, but just to reassure you that 5% of those offences, around 50 people arrested last year, were for things like firearm offences, grievous bodily harm, offensive weapons, 5 for points and blades, strangulation and threats to kill. Those directly link clearly to those people that may have committed some of those murders, manslaughters, and have led to that reduction of figures. So could you just reassure the committee, after obviously your previous opposition to live facial recognition and some being sceptical about its use, that you are fully behind using live facial recognition?
I mean, I recognise the importance of using this tactic to move forward on some of the offences that you've rightly outlined. And I think, you know, I'm really glad the committee has asked about the significant decrease that we've seen in things like homicide in London. I think my point has always been, and I know I've said this at the committee before, that as we move, and increasingly so, to using technology in policing, there needs to be the correct oversight, checks and balances, and listening to community concerns about issues around disproportionality or surveillance is understandably part of how we shape that, and that's why the work of the London Ethics Panel has been helpful in shaping how MOPAC does its oversight in this space.
But hopefully you understand that what you say, the words you use, are so important to the Met, because police officers are worried at the moment. They're worried to use tools or tactics where they think there's not political support. And if you don't give full support to that, if you're saying, you know, we've got to be very careful about how we use it, and raising all those concerns, as you just did, they might not use it, and we might not get these people off the streets.
I mean, there's been over 1,100 deployments of LFR last year. They're definitely using it. All I'm saying is that it's right within all tactics that the police use, that's done proportionately, ethically, and that it does that. We have a model of policing by consent, listening to the concerns of Londoners.
It will just play in the minds of senior leaders that you have been opposed to live facial recognition before. And so I think that's why giving full support from you would be good. But
I think you know, raising concerns is a valid thing. I think it's actually the work the MOPAC's done to review LFR has led to an increase in the amount of pixels, for example, which reduces the amount of disproportionality. That's our work to look at things, suggest things, push the Metropolitan to improve their services for Londoners. I don't shy away from my role in that.
I think we all presume that when we're saying we support a tactic, for example, we support stop and search, we're saying we support it being used in the right way, but we can still say, I fully support that tactic. I think that goes without saying that we want the police to use it in the right way. Anyway, we'll move on. The London Violence Reduction Unit produced a report on understanding homicide, which gave a coding framework for homicide cases. Could you give us an update on how that's currently being used within the Met and any insights gathered as a part of it?
Yeah. As you said, as part of the work the Violence Reduction Unit has done to better understand why homicides happen, the VRU have funded and commissioned a groundbreaking framework which looks to help to continue to reduce violence in London. As part of this, they've worked in partnership with the Behavioural Insights team to put together a coding process that has analysed over 50 homicide cases with the aim of understanding the factors around homicide, such as poverty, mental health, substance abuse, and highlight where there's opportunities to intervene earlier. The Met are using this code to better understand opportunities to intervene early and work on how to train officers investigating homicide cases.
Could you just confirm to me when the framework was published?
I think it was, no, I don't have that in front of me. I can get you the date.
Okay. I think it was in 2020. And as part of that work, the framework said that it would be analysing a further 250 cases over the next 3 years. And I can't see any reports relating to that. Do you know where we are with that?
No, I'd have to get you an update from the VRU on that.
Okay, if you could update us, because like I say, on both the mayoral website and on the Behavioural Insights team website, it refers to further work being taken to develop the code. This was just a pilot that was to be used, and actually they were going to do a lot more work to make sure that this was a right code to use and it was useful before it was widely kind of deployed and used to be helpful to the Met. So it would be really
I know that the Met is now actively using it, so I wonder if that's part of the expansion, but I'll get you the exact details.
It was going to be a review of 250 cases that had already happened, not cases that are happening now. This was just a pilot and they were going to work to further develop the code.
Okay, I can get the committee further details on that.
Okay, and just finally, the 6 factors, which I think we'll go into a couple of them in a second, so I won't touch too much on that. But what I thought was that they clearly don't link very closely to a lot of the murders or manslaughters we see of women, because one of the biggest factors in there would be spousal relationships. 62% of murdered women, that's by a partner or ex-partner. And I just wonder, this code, from looking at it to me, wouldn't really account for the violence that a lot of women experience. So how is that being factored in?
I'm not sure actually whether, I mean, obviously what you see in violence against women and girls, and you're completely correct, Assembly Member Best, that the most perpetrators are known to the victim and within a relational framework. But the work that I know that we do through MOPAC in commissioning services, especially those women with complex needs and vulnerabilities, there are definitely these other factors of substance abuse, mental health, adverse child experiences that we see in it. And it's really, that's part of our understanding of those frameworks, because in the work we do to tackle perpetrators and hold them to account as well, it's important that we're alive to those factors. So I understand what you're saying, that obviously the main factor is that spousal relationship, and definitely in the work that some of the work that I visited through our commission services, ensuring that there's education around what healthy relationships are, both for perpetrators and victims and survivors, is a key part of that work, and the work that the Mayor's funded in schools with the organisation Tender to understand what healthy relationships are is definitely a part of that. But it would be, I really don't recognise that these factors aren't within VAUG, because through the work that we've seen, it is.
Within the framework, and the framework's been created as a code to prevent further murder, manslaughter cases. And it's got mental health, drugs, alcohol, gangs, social media, patterns of escalation. So where you have a code around gangs, if you were looking at women, for example, then it would also be really good to look at spousal relationships, because spousal breakdown, domestic violence, for example, are those key indicators that something might be on the horizon. That's what I just wondered, why it's not in there. And I'm not saying that none of the others should be in there. What I'm saying is I'm concerned that this doesn't fully look at some of the ways we could prevent murder of women through the coding system. I'm not talking about the other work. You started talking about other work. The coding system, for me, wouldn't address the main factors of why women are murdered. But I've taken up too much time. I mean...
Thank you, Assembly Member Best, and Deputy Mayor, if you could come back to us with that, if you could find out why that isn't, part of the coding system. But my question is about the VRU's Understanding Homicide framework, and this found that mental health and alcohol are 2 factors which can contribute to homicides. What steps are the Met and MOPAC taking to address this?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's a key part of the work that we do. I mean, the work that we do through MOPAC's Integrated Offender Management Service, where we take a multi-agency approach to tackling reoffending within people who are out on probation, have those key elements of working with alcohol reduction practitioners, people with mental health expertise, to make sure that the community are holding the perpetrators to account and helping them work forward in terms of rehabilitation. Also, the work that the Met has done around taking a child-first approach, being really cognizant of things like neurodiversity in young people is also key to that work. I think it's really important that the work that we do in terms of prevention, and obviously the VRU are intrinsic to that, takes these issues really into concern, and the work that the Mayor has funded through the violence, harm and exploitation support services are also making sure that we have mental health and substance abuse expertise as part of that wraparound consortium.
Thank you. So we're now moving on to our next section, which is, and the big question here is, how do you pronounce it? Is it Operation Jorica, Jorica? So if you could help us and guide us on that, Deputy Mayor. And if you could let us know how it is actually pronounced. And then the first question will be Assembly Member Garbett.
I've been saying Jorica. Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously this was quite a profound and important operation, and obviously speaks to the kind of immense power that the Met hold and the importance for high standards. My first question is just, what do you see as the most serious failings identified by Operation Jorica?
The work that the Metropolitan Police Service have done to review its deviation from the standards that we all hold the Met to previously under the previous government's Uplift programme are really concerning. I mean, not carrying out vetting checks, not requesting references, a small number inappropriately overturning vetting decisions are miles away from the high standards that the Mayor holds the Metropolitan Police Service to. It's why the Mayor commissioned the Casey Review. It's why the Mayor worked with HMIC and has put in so much investment through things like the Leadership Centre, vetting, the work that we do in MOPAC through sitting and making sure we have independent advisors on the gross misconduct system, and doing regular audits through our Audit Risk and Assurance department in MOPAC to ensure that we're getting the highest standards. I think it's obviously none of those malpractices are now in place, and we've done a significant amount of work which the Metropolitan Police Service have really we now have some of the highest vetting standards in the country, and the removal of over 1,500 officers that weren't fit to serve London is a key indicator of that.
Other colleagues have got questions kind of looking back, but my questions are kind of focused on how MOPAC, so you've mentioned a number of systems that are in place, but how is MOPAC holding the Met to account for the failings identified? And what responsibility and how much kind of capacity has MOPAC got to hold to follow up on these recommendations? I know you mentioned the Audit Risk and Assurance Group. It'd be good to maybe hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, so the MOPAC's Directorate of Audit Risk and Assurance is conducting audits both on recruitment and vetting to provide assurance and insight to strengthen those systems. Moreover, we obviously as well are involved in the gross misconduct system. We obviously also regularly meet with IOPC, HMIC to understand recommendations going into the Met. I want to be clear that the deviations that I've previously listed have ceased within the Metropolitan Police Service, and the Met have now significantly strengthened their vetting standards, and things like obtaining full references was reinstated in 2022. So this isn't a current picture. The Metropolitan Police Service has done a significant amount of work to have some of the highest vetting standards in the country.
And just on the audits, when you say that they're auditing kind of and reviewing, are they binding? Like if they do flag up something that's concerning, have you had examples of where the Met has taken that on, or how powerful is the influence that audit risk and assurance process has?
I mean, I think given that one of the key ways in which Operation Jorica was picked up was data. So there was a significant decrease in the vetting rate, and that number was kind of the instigator for the investigation. So making sure that we have regular audits and that data and insight is pushed back is really important to making sure that we're seeing what we would expect in that. And obviously if we had significant concerns, that's exactly why things like Casey, why issues with HMIC are risen, because that's our job if we have significant concerns.
Some of those things take a lot longer, I guess. I'm just trying to see if there's a more like reactionary part of how the MOPAC and Met work in this area, like if the audit process is flagging an issue. Is there something more, the Met open to that in a more kind of dynamic way?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we obviously have regular oversight meetings. The work that we do in these areas, and especially looking at the themes around, misconduct or things that we see in terms of recruitment or vetting, are regularly brought up with the Metropolitan Police Service, and I think they are open to making sure that standards is a key plank of the new Met for London plan. So it's something that the Commissioner has really driven through the organisation.
And what transparency are we having with Londoners in addressing, or is MOPAC having with Londoners in addressing the findings from this operation?
I mean, the Metropolitan Police Service have, I really welcome that they've published the full report on Jorica now, and also HMIC is doing a review into this, but also nationally, given that the Police Uplift programme was a national programme, looking at how other forces might have been affected by that as well.
And just finally, you mentioned around the MPS deviating from the authorised professional practice. Do you know if there's any other areas in which they are deviating from that? And if not, can you report back to the committee?
No. I mean, in terms of this, all of those practices have ceased. We've been assured of that.
Okay. It'd be good to have some reassurance to just make fully sure that they're not deviating from any other part of it, because obviously it's wider than just the few bits that they deviated from.
No, the HMIC and will do their review, but it's, obviously there's national guidance in recruitment and vetting, and I would say that the Metropolitan Police Service now have a nationally leading high level of vetting because of, some of the awful cases we've seen before and what have come out of the Casey review. It's a key plank of making sure that we have the police service that we deserve.
Great, and I'm sure that will come out through the Fairfield review as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assembly Member Hall.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, the Police Uplift programme has been blamed a lot for the vetting going a bit skew-whiff. But in December 2018, so that's 6 months before the Police Uplift programme, the HMI noted that the Met had 16,000 staff that did not hold adequate vetting. And in April 2019, 37% of the overall workforce, 33% of officers, 72% of PCSOs, and 45% of staff didn't. So what action did MOPAC take when they heard this? What was the oversight?
I wasn't here in 2016, but I now know that the processes we have in place through our audit and our functions around gross misconduct regularly check the recruitment, vetting and misconduct processes of the Metropolitan Police Service.
Well, I hear what you say, but I think we've been told this before. Is the stride policy of hiring officers who would never be allowed to become police officers but were to boost diversity, is that still in place?
No.
And when was that removed?
I can assure the committee that all of these practices have ceased, and the enactment of a new vetting policy was put in place in June 2024, and there's been a complete review of all of those cases. I think it's also important to recognise that, you know, through the Uplift programme, there was a lot of high standard officers that have come and served London today, but they reviewed all of those things, and I think 5,100 officers were affected by the vetting deviations, 17,355 officers and staff had potentially incomplete checks. So they've really gone through all of the data to make sure that we are in a
well,
state of
it's the very
understanding.
least we should expect, isn't it, Deputy Mayor? I mean, to actually allow people to be employed because it boosts diversity in the police force, when exactly was that removed? When was Stride, Operation Stride, or the Stride policy, when was that removed?
Well, I know that the new policy, the new vetting policy brought in June 2024, make sure that all of those practices have now ceased. I think it is really important that we have a Metropolitan Police Service that reflects London. However, I really don't agree with any deviation from the standards that you need around vetting or recruitment to do that.
So you can absolutely assure us now that people will not be let through that would not normally go through just because they tick a box in the diversity?
No, I mean...
So you agree with me, it was absolutely outrageous because, of course, that's how PC
I think all of the
Cliff Mitchell got
deviations
through.
that the Metropolitan Police Service did around, that we've learnt about through Jorica are, you know, not what we would expect or deserve as Londoners, and I'm glad to know that they've all ceased and that we now have a framework that has led to the Metropolitan Police Service having the highest vetting in the country.
Well, it's about time because, if MOPAC had a proper action plan, it wouldn't wait until these issues get to crisis point before they actually step in and do something. I mean, some of the issues that have come through incorrect vetting are absolutely appalling. You look at Wayne Couzens, you look at... I mean, there's so many.
That's exactly why the Mayor didn't wait. It's exactly why he worked with Baroness Casey to commission the Casey View. It's exactly why he's worked with HMIC, because he holds the standards in the Metropolitan Police Service rightly extremely high. It's why he's invested in ensuring that we have the best vetting system in the country.
Well, he was the mayor in 2018, unless I'm mistaken, and that's when the HMI noted that vetting was not at an adequate level. But I'll leave that at there because that's a fact. How many officers are currently employed by the Metropolitan Police that do not hold up-to-date vetting?
The Metropolitan Police Service has identified 39 individuals who need to be fully re-vetted. That does not mean that the individuals are unfit to serve, but their vetting was not effective when they joined. 24 of the 39 have been granted vetting through clearances, and 7 applications are being in progress now.
And you're absolutely sure that's the correct number, are you?
That's the information that I've received from the Metropolitan Police Service.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll discuss this again. What has MOPAC put in place to ensure that vetting standards can never again be compromised in response to government police recruitment targets?
As previously stated, this is the work that we've been doing around all levels of recruitment, vetting, misconduct services to oversee.
Yep, you've said that. But if suddenly this mayor managed to get the money from the government, which he's always claimed he's going to, and we can suddenly have an input of lots of officers, have you put sufficient money into the vetting system that they could be vetted properly? Because if not, we'll have exactly the same problem as the last uplift. So what contingencies are there if this government miraculously finds money for more police for the Metropolitan Police Service, which they've promised and which the mayor has promised? How do you know that you've got enough resource in place in vetting?
I mean, the way in which we devise both the budget and talk to the Metropolitan Police Service about their operational understanding around workforce planning is key to what you're talking about, and making sure we have the highest levels of vetting has always come alongside that in the constructions of those conversations.
Okay, I fear that doesn't actually answer the real worry that if money was found for extra officers, I don't know how they would be vetted. But for time
I want to assure
reasons,
the committee that, as I've said previously, the mayor has invested a significant amount of money ensuring that we have the highest vetting service in the whole country. We're now leading the way, and the work that we'll be doing with the HMIC to ensure that they fully understand the implications of Jorica, but also help national forces in what they've understood has been a wide-ranging issue on the back of the previous government's uplift programme.
Many, many times, and yet we have horrors like Cliff Mitchell most recently, and Wayne Couzens, and I could go on, and yet we've had many assurances.
It's on the back of those awful cases that the Mayor of London got in the Casey review, worked with HMIC. It's, the Mayor holds the safety of London as a key priority, and making sure we have a Metropolitan Police Service that protects and keeps us safe is key to the work that we do in MOPAC.
I hear what you say. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assembly Member Small-Edwards.
Thank you very much, Chair. Deputy Mayor, do you have confidence that the vetting reforms the Met Police has now put in place are sufficient to prevent the recruitment of unsuitable and potentially dangerous individuals like David Carrick, Cliff Mitchell, Wayne Couzens into the police?
I think that the processes that they have put in place are wide-ranging, look at, all they can, and actually I'm sure you will have heard that the Commissioner is looking for increasing ways to increase the standards of officers, whether that be using different surveillance tactics or looking at the declaration of anonymous groups that they might be a part of. The Commissioner, through the new Met for London 2, has reconfirmed his commitment to having the highest standards of policing, and it's for us to continue to work alongside him in ensuring that those vetting processes are in place, and looking at the data through the work that DARA, the Directorate of Audit, Risk and Assurance, do, that we have that information in real time to get that continual assurance.
Thank you. And what performance metrics will MOPAC be using to determine whether those changes that the Commissioner is implementing are actually having an effect and are working?
Sorry, could you repeat the last part of your question?
Just the performance metrics that will be employed to determine whether those changes are in fact working and recruitment is improving.
Yeah, so there's a number of ways in which DARA get the assurance of that, because obviously it's both in recruitment and vetting that they look at. I can give you, if you'd like, more information on the key performance indicators of that, but it is through tracking of how many officers have been vetted. Obviously, the Metropolitan Police Service has brought in a cycle of vetting, so you're not vetted once and then you can go on to do something. You're regularly re-vetted. So it's looking at the key determinants at every process through recruitment, vetting and re-vetting.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point about re-vetting and that continual evaluation. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. And if I could make the point that this issue about vetting and re-vetting has been consistently raised by this committee and we have asked consistently for that to be taken on board. So when that became, and I personally have done this, so I think we were all very, very pleased to see that our issues were taken on board and that the vetting and re-vetting is now absolutely standard within policies. Assembly Member Roberts.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Deputy Mayor, for your answers previously. I would note that earlier in the answers regarding vetting, the impression seemed to be given that the Mayor brought in Baroness Casey, where the Casey report was commissioned by the Metropolitan Police. I'm just conscious that when the Metropolitan Police do something which the Mayor doesn't agree with, it's an operational decision for them. However, when the Metropolitan Police do something that the Mayor is happy with, it's his decision. These are small semantics which should always be.
Sorry, would you like to comment on that, Deputy Mayor?
No, I mean, as with the Fairfield review, it was a joint commission.
No, according to the Metropolitan Police, it was their commission. But there we go. Small point. There we are. Vetting. What steps is MOPAC taking to ensure that the Met's recruitment processes are routinely assessed for compliance with legislation and professional practice, particularly during large-scale recruitment campaigns?
Sorry, could you repeat the first part of your question?
Happy to. What steps is MOPAC taking to ensure that the Met's recruitment processes are routinely assessed for compliance with legislation and professional practice, particularly during large-scale recruitment campaigns?
As previously stated, that's the work that we do through DARA, the Directorate of Audit and Risk, where we routinely look at both recruitment and vetting.
Okay, and how is MOPAC ensuring that the Met sets realistic workforce planning ambitions that reflect current market conditions and the organisation's wider operating context?
That through regular conversations with the Metropolitan Police in assurance that they have a current pipeline of recruitment. Obviously, recruitment in the Metropolitan Police Service is something that is a continual thing, given that we have obviously officers retiring. So there's continual checks that there's a pipeline for recruitment, that those recruitment are done under the framework, that they are all receiving the new Met for London training. Those are the kind of things that we get regular assurance on.
Thank you. And just touching on the ongoing review by Dr. Fairfield, will the review also review vetting standards as part of the investigation?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assembly Member Lord Bailey.
Good morning, Deputy Mayor. When it comes to police recruitment and workforce planning, how much work have MOPAC and the Metropolitan Police done on cohorts? And what I mean by that is we've had pushes in the past to recruit lots of officers. Officers has arrived, and that means they all traditionally then retire at the same point. So what work is being done around that, taking into account the cuts in numbers and funding that the current government are delivering?
Thank you. Yeah, this is a piece of work that we're really conscious of. You'll know the previous Deputy Commissioner was in terms of ensuring with the Metropolitan Police is fixing the foundations of the service, had really pushed to understand the workforce numbers and have systems like databases that are linked to I'm going to forget the directorate's name, but the HR directorate, to ensure that they have the most up-to-date information on their workforce, so that they can look at kind of workforce both in terms of recruitment and exiting from the service.
One of the biggest challenges facing the Met now, I've had an influx of new officers, which eventually will be a very, very good thing. But of course, we've had people exit the service because morale is very low under the Mayor. And that means that certain specialisms are going away. Are they doing particular work looking at the specialism? So anything from detectives to forensic, because those specialisms can't be answered in the short term. You need to train people to answer them. So is there a particular stream of work looking at the specialisms that the Met may be losing?
Short answer is yes. Through the workforce development programme, they're looking across the whole Metropolitan Police Service on the numbers of those services, the work that they're doing through the reorganisation of the service takes those specialism into consideration to make sure that they have a balanced approach to both the work to prioritise neighbourhood, but to strengthen the other key priorities around, for example, forensics or organised crime specialism.
So is there special streams of work to recruit and train those people? Because some of those recruitments will be internal and some may be external. Is there a particular piece of work that's being done to make sure that we do that? Because if you add the vetting to it, it's going to take ages to get that person in.
Yeah, and I think the work that we, looked at in relation to, for example, the firearms service, it really showed that, because that's a really particular specialism given, for example, the physicality of the job that's needed there. So it's definitely making sure that there is that prospective promotional route through the Metropolitan Police Service, but also that external uplift. I did come to the committee before to talk about the various recruitment streams that there are. I can go back and get further information on that.
When it comes particularly to vetting and the breakdown that we've had and the idea that certain people were brought in because of their colour, their race, their gender, etc. Does the Mayor acknowledge that it wasn't the Metropolitan Police who decided to do that? It was pressure they received politically to fill those quotas, for those quotas to exist?
I mean, the report that Jorica, Operation Jorica, the published report, definitely speaks to the national uplift programme and the political pressure that the police service said that they felt around that. I think the Mayor has been unequivocal in saying that he has never approved or authorised any deviation from those standards. I think obviously we want a Metropolitan Police Service that reflects the diversity of London, but that should never be in relation to poor recruitment standards.
You've said that twice in this meeting today. The Mayor has said it 100 times in 100 different places. That placed the Metropolitan Police in a position where they felt like they had to respond to what they were hearing politically. Do you think that may have been a problem as to why they did, which turned out to be something very silly?
I mean, to be honest, no, because I think that there's a myriad of ways that you improve an organisation to be inclusive, diverse. You know, the work that we've been doing with the Metropolitan Police Service on improving its culture, improving the relationship it has with its staff associations. These are all positive ways in which you have a workforce that encourages, that feels inclusive, that people from all backgrounds want to be a part of, and that should never be at the exclusion of high standards.
While I agree, I find it astonishing that you say it wouldn't have any effect, because of course it now means that officers who are in the service, who are black, who are women, whatever, carry that suspicion that they're part of a quota, which damages their professional progress. And I think that really should be taken into account by yourself and the Mayor when you make statements about diversity. Obviously, I'm a black man. Being diverse is great, but you have to understand the impact it has when you make it with no context.
Sorry, Lord Bailey, are you saying that me and the Mayor shouldn't
I never said no such thing. I said
diverse
I said
workforce
when you... I
reflects
said
London.
when you make those statements, you should be careful about the impact of them because you're making them with very little context. The last thing I want to say is that...
Sorry, what would be the context in a city where we have a myriad of people from all backgrounds? That's the context.
The context would be their professional respect once they get in there.
A police service that reflects that so that when the police are policing London by consent, they are doing that with the understanding, the cultural competency to be able to do that.
The context is supporting those officers once they've joined the service to make sure...
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
Well, I'm telling
and
you
that's
context.
why we've been working with the Metropolitan Police Service relentlessly to improve the culture. It's why we've been set up the London Policing Board to work with external experts and internal experts through the Staff Association to make sure that we have a police service that is inclusive. We've now got a Metropolitan Police Service that professes to want to be an inclusive organisation to everyone, and I think we should be exceptionally proud of that. That does not mean and should never mean a deviation from professional standards, because that in itself is saying something inherently untrue to people from non-white backgrounds.
I'm suggesting, as the facts will show, that there were some elements there of what I'm saying. And the last thing I'll have to say is Assembly Members Roberts' contention that it was a Met who asked for the case review, as my understanding is true. And also it's a little bit offensive that the Mayor keeps trying to claim it as his intervention when it was the Met doing it for themselves. We should acknowledge
that's really
when they do
not
the
my
right
understanding.
Chair?
My understanding is that at both times, like the Fairfield Review, it was a joint commission based on significant concerns that the Mayor of London had at the time.
Thank you. Assembly Member Hall.
Right, very briefly, you said that the 39 is the number of officers that need re-vetting because of the failures in vetting. There are a lot more whose vetting have expired, and are also those waiting for new vetting because they've changed jobs. Can you write to the committee as a matter of urgency and tell us just how many of those people, because I know quite a few, that need re-vetting because it's run out, or they've changed jobs and need further vetting? So if we could have that as a matter of urgency, please.
Yeah, that's
Thank
not a
you.
problem.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Assembly Member Garbett. Sorry, I thought you were waving to me. OK, we are... Goodness me, I don't want to jinx it, but we are ahead of ourselves. That does not mean that everyone dives in the next session. So we are now going to take a break for 5-6 minutes, and I'd like everyone back here at 11:15, please. Thank you. Okay, thank you for coming back promptly. I'd now like to move on to the second part of this session. I'd like to welcome Amana Humayun from MOPAC, who is the, forgive me, who's the Chief Financial Officer of MOPAC, in fact. And the section that we are now discussing is about the Met's transition to electric vehicles. The first question is Assembly Member Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy Met, just can I very briefly just refer back to where we ended it in the last section, when we were talking about who commissioned the Casey review, and some people were almost trying to indicate that they felt that the Mayor had not been on that issue of starting that off. Wasn't he the one who ended up parting company with Cressida Dick because of his concerns about the need to look into the situation within the Metropolitan Police?
And the relevances?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, to say that the Mayor doesn't take seriously the professional standards of Metropolitan Police is evidently not true. That's clear from the actions he's taken and the investment he's made in them.
Thank you. I'd just like... I'm sorry, I didn't mention your name.
No,
and we've just had 10 minutes from somebody else after you, who was very strongly implying
Assembly
those
members.
things.
Metropolitan Police websites.
Assembly members,
it was anything to do with you.
if we could get back to the issue of electric vehicles.
Well, I was
Assembly
about
Member
to.
Cooper, please.
I was about
It
to.
was a totally relevant interjection.
Well, I think we quite often have interjections on other people's questions. However, moving on to electric vehicles, and thank you very much for Amana Humayun joining us as well. I would just like to ask, and obviously I've seen some of the charging points in my local stations, and I know the police do like the electric vehicles because they're very quick. Is the Met on track to deliver its planned transition to electric vehicles? Is it all on track?
I think we need to, and I'm sure Amana will give the specifics, but I think we need to understand that obviously the Metropolitan fleet is a huge number of vehicles. Currently, 3% of the fleet is made up of fully electric vehicles, and a further 16 consists of hybrid vehicles. But we, and you will have seen in the estate strategy, that we're very cognizant both of the Mayor's ambitions around electrification and the overall government and legal framework that we're working in that mandates the stopping of the production of non-electric vehicles. So it is in that context that I'll hand over to Amana.
Thanks.
Just to support what the Deputy Mayor has said, fleet electrification...
I'm going to have to ask you to speak slightly closer to the microphone.
I'm so sorry, is that better?
Thank you. Yeah,
just to support what the Deputy Mayor says, fleet electrification, as we know, is unavoidable. There is now a legal mandate. So by 2035, the zero-emission vehicle mandate comes in. And after 2035, no cars or vans that were of the previous combustion engine, ICE engines, will be produced. Our assessment, however, from liaising with manufacturers, is that many of them, particularly of the high-spec vehicles, will stop producing ICE vehicles as early as 2028, so we're only a couple of years away. The Met have taken a sort of cautious, pilot-based approach to rolling out the use of electric vehicles. The Deputy Mayor has provided you with some stats. There is also one station where they are fully using an electric emergency response fleet, and that's Stoke Newington, where they have 27 high-performance electric vehicles. They've undertaken a project which, sorry, you may be coming on to ask about in a moment, Project Electra, which has seen them install...
some of my colleagues are going to ask about that. So.
Okay, all right, I'll pause.
So perhaps if I get you to pause on talking about Electra. But thank you very much for that. That's very helpful. How is MOPAC measuring the progress that the police are making. I mean, obviously the Stokey fully electric and Project Electra is one area, but obviously you're expecting progress to be taking place across the entire fleet in all police stations. How are you measuring that from the MOPAC end?
Primarily, we do that through our meeting that we call the IAM meeting, which is our infrastructure meeting. Investment advisory meeting, thank you, where we get regular updates on kind of capital projects, of which this is one. And obviously, in terms of the decisions we're taking in that space, regularly pushing for what we're doing to move forward on the policy.
And how are you measuring the impact on policing, whether that's positive because the high-spec electric vehicles are faster, or negative because on a particular day, I don't know whether this has ever happened, but someone's gone out to the yard and there hasn't been any vehicle charged up. I mean, those would be kind of like the positive and negative ends of the scale, I suppose. Is that something that you're keeping an eye on?
Yes. What I would say is it's obviously Amana, what was the contract that we just signed off on? We've put in, I've just signed a contract that is putting into all vehicles a data, Techmatics, that's it, that puts into all vehicles a tracking thing that looks at length of journey, response time, down to the very minute. So, and we're using that data to really look at how we can move forward in the transition work, so that we have a full picture of what would be needed. Obviously, given the real critical nature of the fleet in responding to emergencies, the Met have taken a cautious approach in how they're moving forward. But I was really assured through the discussion we had on Techmatics that they want to use the most accurate data possible.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of monitoring kit that can go into the cabs of long-distance lorries. So, I mean, the way that you can monitor what's going on. Can you assure me that there's never been an incident yet in terms of an impact where someone's been responding in a vehicle that's then conked out because it's run out of electricity?
I don't believe so, and I think actually the response vehicles are one of the last vehicles that would be on track for transition. Is that correct, Amana?
It's correct, and because we are at this relatively early stage of moving, I mean, the Met have got 5,300 vehicles in their fleet, different types of, different spec of vehicles. So should there be an incident where a car isn't available to be mobilised, it's not as if there aren't any backups available. So there have been no incidents of that nature notified to us.
You know, I'm hoping that no one's walked out into the yard and that 10 vehicles have all not been charged up. But I'm going to leave it there because some other colleagues want to come in on this issue as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblymember Best.
Thank you. Could you let us know what areas of policing you've been looking at that you could deprioritise in order to deliver on the electrification of the fleet?
I don't think that we've deprioritised any areas of policing. Obviously, this comes under the capital budget, so would be in that context. I think as
is this a priority?
Yes, it is a priority, and as stated in the estate strategy, we're looking with due regard.
Has it always been a priority?
My understanding.
It's a priority due to the legal mandate that's coming into effect.
Okay, so it's a priority. Has it always been a priority?
Ever since we've known that there aren't going to be non-electric vehicles available, it's a priority. We can't have a police force for London without any vehicles.
So that was in 2024, the government confirmed they were going to go ahead with no sale of vehicles in 2030. That's the point you're talking about. So that's the point becomes a priority. That means something has to be deprioritised in order to create a new priority. So what is deprioritised? Or what areas could you look to deprioritise?
So as the Deputy Mayor mentions, the investment both into the electric vehicles themselves and also any charging infrastructure would be a financial liability on our capital budget, not really our revenue budget. You'll recall from our conversations on the budget that all of our capital spend, nearly all of it, is funded by borrowing. There's a huge demand on the Met's capital budget, full stop, and that's not just from the electrification of fleet, but also the dilapidated nature of the estate. Without going into all the details of the various demands on the capital budget, the Met have had to for a number of years prioritise all of their capital spend against those things they need to do to deliver core policing requirements, and on their estate deliver an estate that's legally compliant. So having to prioritise against their capital budget is quite a routine annual exercise that we have to do.
I understand. That's why I'm asking what's deprioritised.
Well, if you look at the estate strategy, for example, I'm focusing on that because that's a large pull on the capital budget. The 10-year estate ambition would require £2.4 billion. And that would involve having a really modern, really fit-for-purpose estate across London. We simply don't have the funds for that. So essentially, there are elements of that have been deprioritised. We don't have especially modern buildings. We don't have fantastic facilities across the London estate because we are focusing on keeping the estate that we have got, about 200 sites, legally safe, legally compliant, and preventing police station closures.
Thank you for that answer, Deputy Mayor. When we started this exchange, I said to you, what areas would be deprioritised? You said nothing, and it's now been clarified. That is the
sorry, I understood the question to be what areas of policing.
So when we look, I don't think I've asked the question. I don't think I've asked the question yet, though. I don't think.
Sorry, I was just clarifying because you were saying that I had said something that I hadn't. So I just wanted to clarify that I was saying that you said what areas of policing have been deprioritised. And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to answer the question.
I literally stated a fact.
How would you like me to?
Sorry, I'm the chair. Assembly Member Best, you raised an issue with the Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayor, do you want to respond?
I haven't raised any issue.
Well, you did. You've just said that she didn't say it, so perhaps the Deputy Mayor could respond to that, please.
No, I said she did say it. I think everyone was in the room and heard
could the Deputy Mayor... Thank you. Deputy Mayor, could you continue, please?
I just wanted to clarify that I understood the question to be which areas of policing, and I wanted to clarify that it's not the revenue budget, it's the capital budget, and therefore policing in itself through a revenue operational aspect wasn't being deprioritised.
The capital and the revenue budget are part of policing.
I understand that obviously the estate supports the operational function of policing, but that's what I was clarifying, that the operational functions of policing weren't being deprioritised in relation to the estate.
I asked you what areas of policing were being deprioritised. The capital and revenue budget are both a part of policing. You said nothing was being deprioritised. So if I could come back to the question that I was going to ask you after you'd said that, and the needless interruption, I was going to ask you, now you look at that, now you look at the estate strategy, the fact that people will be seeing, less and less police stations, less and less of that infrastructure. Do you know what's the priority for Londoners? Have you spoken to Londoners about how they feel about this?
Yes, we regularly speak to Londoners about how they feel about policing. That's one of the key functions of MOPAC, through the public attitude survey, through our consultation in the construction of the policing crime plan. And what has been continuously clear is that Londoners want to see local visible policing. I know we're coming on to the estate strategy later, but that is why we're working actively with the police in terms of their ambition to have dedicated ward officers closer to neighbourhood teams, but also being able to have a fleet that is modern, functioning is part of that. And with the government's prioritisation and legislation around moving that, we have to respond to that and do it in a way that supports the operation.
So Londoners told you they'd like an electric fleet of vehicles as opposed to infrastructure like police stations.
Obviously, and I know we're going to come on to this section later, obviously we understand that police stations are a key part of policing. They hold multiple of functions, and we do and has always consulted Londoners in that as. But I think what's really important is that London has said they want local policing accessible, and we're moving through the estate strategy to meet that ambition. But that has to be in line with legislation, and legislation is saying that they're getting rid of non-electric vehicles, and we need to be able to respond to that through the work we're doing as well.
Or if it wasn't a priority of Londoners, you could go back to the government and say, because you're putting this pressure on us to electrify our vehicles, we can't maintain our police stations in London. That's also an option.
I mean, we regularly talk to government about the prioritisation around policing. I think it's also really important that we recognise that there are a myriad of national grants and schemes that we're trying to tap into around the national prioritisation of tackling the climate emergency, and we look to do that. I mean, the mayors who was elected by Londoners on a clear manifesto that talked about the importance.
Sorry, was that the manifesto that said that we would have extra police officers, 1,300 extra police officers, and that said that we would have an open 24/7 police station in every borough? Is that the manifesto that the
and on neighbourhood
Londoners elected the mayor
we're
on?
moving forward to making sure that we are having more and more officers. We've already released around 500 dedicated ward officers, and
That's not true. You can't move chess pieces and say there's more chess pieces.
Assemblymember Best, I'm sorry, could we just stick to the issues, and Deputy Mayor as well, if we could stick to the issue of electric vehicles, please?
Chair, with all due respect, it's the Deputy Mayor that keeps on moving the subject onto something else and started bringing up. It's not me that's changing the subject.
Would you like to ask your question? Otherwise, we will run out of time. Assemblymember Best, Assemblymember Best, you've had your chance. Assemblymember Garbett.
So I've just got a quick question from the estate strategy. It says that EV transition and outline business case should have been submitted to the IPG/EXCO. I don't know how these things are pronounced, in October to December 2025. So I just wondered if that had happened.
It hasn't happened yet. It's expected to go to IPG, which is a internal governance group within the Met. So both IPG and EXCO are Met governance components, quite critical ones. MOPAC have a seat on the Met EXCO. I attend alongside Rina Lalji, our Chief Executive. Once investment proposals pass EXCO, they are brought to the Deputy Mayor for consideration and considered at the IAM meeting that Deputy Mayor just mentioned. But yes, it was expected, but it's been delayed, but I'm expecting it to go in January.
Great, because obviously from January, March, it said watching brief on grant applications. So yeah, it's just making sure that we don't kind of miss the next phase. I want to ask a slightly different question to where we've got to. Obviously, one way of solving how the police move around London is by looking and reviewing the use of bikes and e-bikes. So I just wondered if that's been considered as part of this whole conversation.
The short answer is yes, definitely. We recently were looking at how we increase the use of electric bicycles in target hotspots areas, so that's definitely a component of the conversation.
Great, it'd just be good if that featured in the discussion, because obviously it just sounds like we're replacing one type of vehicle with another rather than thinking about other things that some of the local services have developed. And I know a lot of those conversations have happened with local authorities. So, yeah, just making sure that we're not just doing that classic thing of replacing with a different,
No, I mean, you'll know that, and as Amana said earlier, there's in the fleet covers a huge range of vehicles, and bicycles have always been a feature of policing, and e-bikes similarly.
Great, thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Assemblymember Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Gosh, where to begin with this? Obviously quite an interesting topic, and one that it's good that we're looking at. So Yes, you're right, Amana, to talk about capital, and this is capital spend rather than revenue. Yes, I get that. I also get that there's competition for capital, just as there's competition for revenue, including within the capital spend, the 28 million that's been earmarked for decarbonising the police estate while shutting the front doors to Londoners. And all of that is funded by borrowing, which of course has a revenue implication when we're paying it back. So to say that it doesn't have an impact on other policing priorities, I think is not true. And we can see that when Londoners will see that policing is in retreat in London. We're shutting the front counters, the parks police, the schools officers, all these things are going on. I really wonder why this is seemingly such a big priority. How much in the budget is earmarked for the 26-27 budget for this EV charging infrastructure rollout?
A very modest amount, 2.5 million.
That's not the figure that I saw when I was looking through the consolidated climate budget. I saw a figure of 4.1 million, which is nearly double.
So it's 2.4, specifically for electric vehicles in 26-27, 2.5 million, maximum 2.6, and it's the same in year 2 of the MTFP as well, the medium-term financial plan, 27-28.
Thank you for clarifying that. Moving to Deputy Mayor then, I think this does strike to the heart of the question about priorities. And why are we doing this so quickly, so now? We talked about it being cautious. It didn't seem to be a cautious programme when Matt Jukes was here in front of this committee back in June. He seemed to be revelling in the fact we're getting rid of all the combustion vehicles, and I think we're doing it too quickly. Why? We have the context of the government's ludicrous electric vehicle mandate. I get we have to operate within those contexts, but we do not have to stop using hybrids. Why can't we stick with hybrids for a bit longer and then have more capital and revenue money able to spend on the real priorities, which are policing on the streets and keeping London streets safe?
Yeah, as previously mentioned, Assembly Member Wilson, 16% currently of the fleet is hybrid vehicles. Only 3% are currently full electric. So I don't think that we're shying away from the use of hybrid vehicles. I think also, and I know we're going to come on to talk about it, it's important that we have the correct infrastructure around charging as well to enable any increase in going full electric. Only currently 3% of those vehicles are fully electric. I think that we're definitely using a test and learn approach and using the requisite data to make sure that we're getting that correct. I think there are a lot of positive things about using electric vehicles, response times being one of them, and that's important that we look at the benefits as well. But given the critical nature of the fleet, it's important that we're looking at all elements of it and making sure that we're progressing correctly on that. And as I previously mentioned, the contract that we've just signed up with Telematics to make sure that we have a fuller picture to inform any transition is really helpful in that regard.
If there was a change of government and national government had a different priority, would you look at reprioritising this and again, stick with hybrids for longer in that context?
I mean, we always have to be responsive to the legislation of the day. Obviously, there are other policies, the mayoral policies and ambition around tackling the climate emergency would also have to be taken in due regard for those prioritisations as well.
Good. I'm glad you have to take into account wider prioritisations, because I think the most important prioritisation we need to take account of is the prioritisation of ordinary Londoners. I know Assembly Member Best was asking this, what would actually ordinary Londoners think of this being a priority? And I can tell you, because helpfully, the GLA conducts its own polling on a monthly basis, asking Londoners what is the priority, or what are your top 3 priorities for London? And tackling crime, making London safer, 59%. Tackling the climate emergency, 9%. And yet, the second question, what do you think the Mayor's priorities are? Tackling crime and making London safer, only 13% say that. Issues like this, don't you think are exacerbating that gulf between what Londoners think we should be doing and yet what we're seeing that we are doing.
I would disagree that the Mayor's priority, I mean, he's always exceptionally clear that his number one priority is keeping London safe. It's why he's never shied away from raising the precept. It's why he now funds a quarter of the Metropolitan Police overall budget. And it's why categorically in the Police and Crime Plan we talk about making Londoners safer and making Londoners feel safe. And as at the start of the meeting, the record amount of investment and success in reducing homicides, bringing down theft from person, bringing down robbery, bringing down theft from vehicles, have all become on the back of that prioritisation and hard work from the Mayor and the Metropolitan Police Service.
Thank you. One more point, Chair, before I go back. Yes, he talks a good game, but that's all it is with the Mayor. It's talk. If he really put tackling crime and safety at the forefront of everything he did, it would trump this an action on net zero, and we would be getting the 1,300 extra officers as extra officers, not as redeployments. And I think it's clear what's going on here. He doesn't put that first. We see it in the actions day by day, and we welcome, of course, we all welcome the reduction in homicide, but we haven't had a reduction in theft and those other issues. Even the Home Secretary talks about an epidemic of everyday crime. That's not me saying that. That's not Assemblymember Hall saying it. It's none of us here saying it. It's the Home Secretary, the Labour Home Secretary, and that's what we've got going on. And if you don't recognise it and don't accept that, we're never going to be able to fix it. Thank you.
Assemblymember Wilson. Homicide is down 11%, violence with injury is down 5%, gun crime is down 10.5%, robbery is down 7.5%, burglary is down 10.5%, theft from person is down 11%. The last Operation Reckoning, tackling phone theft, tackled an organised crime gang that was suspected to be involved in 40% of organised phone theft in London. To say that that is a game is, I think, disregarding of the hard work of Metropolitan Police officers that do that work every day. And so it's not a game, it's investment and it's hard work and it's paying off.
If you look at the record across the entirety of his mayoralty...
Assemblymember Wilson, I am sorry. We are going to have to move on. Assemblymember Wilson, my apologies. Before we move on to the next questions, could Assembly members be cognisant of the amount of time we now have left on this section? We are now sadly running behind. Assemblymember Hall.
Thank you. I can't begin to tell you how cross I am about this. We're looking at spending all this money and yet front counters are closing, police numbers are dropping. I'm so worried about response vehicles being turned electric because they're used all the time. Can you imagine anybody saying, thank God the police are here, but more importantly that they're here in an electric vehicle? Nobody cares. If you phone the police, you want the police there, you don't actually care how they get there. And for response vehicles to be used all the time, for hours of the day to have to be taken out to be recharged is absolute lunacy. It really is lunacy. And the point that was made earlier, the more money we borrow, the more we have to pay back and pay back in interest. And then we look at revenue costs, and all of this is affecting the police. If the Mayor cared so much about our police, perhaps he'd start looking at his priorities, because getting electric vehicles to a crime scene isn't as important as actually numbers of police being around to turn up. So, going on to the electrification of these vehicles, what work has been done looking at things like the police carriers, the Sandcats, the Pixie vans, because they're all very large vehicles and getting them electrified is not as simple as all that. So where do these particular vehicles that are so important to the police, where do they come in the importance of this wretched electrification?
Obviously, this is why we need to take a data and also a commercially based response to that. Some of those specialist vehicles you've mentioned and we discussed last time, there are only specialist markets for them, and so in that regard we'll have to move with the markets in terms of what's available in terms of electrification. Amanda, I don't know if you want to...
There's a requirement for high-spec vehicles across the UK public sector. So the NHS ambulance service, the London Fire Brigade, the GLA collaboration activity is doing a huge amount of work on this to try and gather all of essentially all of London's public sector together to talk about electrification and having appropriate charging functionality across the city. And there has been a short sprint actually completed by the GLA Collaboration Board, bringing together all the different parts of the GLA family to identify their charging, their electric vehicle charging requirements. So that's included the Met, it's included the LFB, it's included TfL as well.
I know, the LFB are under real pressure to get fire engines electrified. It's lunacy, is what this is. It is absolute lunacy. And yet we've got, as I said before, we've got front counters closing. We haven't got enough police officers on the street. And actually, putting all this money in this is taking money away from training officers and God knows what else, all of which Londoners want. Londoners want a police service that is functioning properly. They don't care if it's electrified or not.
I completely agree with the prioritisation of neighbourhood policing. It's why we've worked with the Metropolitan Police Service to fund an additional 1,000 officers by the end of the financial years to be moved into neighbourhood policing. I think, respectfully, the response times is a key component of the work that we're doing, and we're looking at that. I really agree with you that people's priority is having rapid responses. And actually, I think that there's a lot in the electric vehicle space that could improve some of those journey times, but it's really important that we're data-led, and that's why the contract we signed off with Telematic to get that information is really important. This is the way that the whole vehicle industry is moving, and it's great that we're working in collaboration across the GLA family to make sure that we're moving at pace. I know the work that TfL have done, particularly on buses, to do a huge amount in terms of electrification will be really helpful in our progress towards a less polluting estate.
I'm elected, and to talk on behalf of Londoners. And I can tell you now, Londoners don't care about this. They far more care that they're kept safe. And in that, we need front counters opened. We need more police officers on the street. The Metropolitan Police, until some of the figures disappeared, were £250 million short. Resource needs to go into the police service. And I need to ask you, Amana, what would the impact of increased borrowing be on the Met's already strained financial resources, and what further cuts will need to be achieved to achieve the Mayor's ridiculous net zero ambition? And it's all about the Mayor, this is. It's not about Londoners who just want more police on the streets.
There is a revenue cost of borrowing, you're right. We are part of the borrowing facility that's in place across the GLA. We try to ensure that our borrowing, we do ensure that our borrowing is evaluated really on a daily basis to check in on and assess interest rates, and we frequently move our borrowing around to make sure we minimise the cost of borrowing. That said, because there are no government grants for capital funding, extremely limited government grants are available, and they are purely to support sustainable projects, actually. So from a financial perspective, it's beneficial to try and ensure our capital spend tries to maximise the use of carbon reduction grants, such as the public sector decarbonisation scheme. But there is a cost of borrowing, yes.
Yes, there is. And this is all to fix the Mayor's obsession with net zero. It doesn't affect him, half of this. It does affect the public, those that are anything from being stabbed to losing their phones, etc. They want more police on the streets.
If I could just say that the figures that I quoted earlier, the the budget that's been set aside for electrification for 26-27 is 2.5 million, and it's far surpassed by other areas of capital investment for which we're also borrowing, and that includes our investment in the estate, in the physical estate, in buildings, in making sure those buildings are legally compliant, fixing broken toilets and that sort of thing, but also in our fundamental tech programs as well. So it's a fraction of the capital budget that's being used to support this.
It's still money, it's still money, it's still taxpayers' money, it's still money that's being taken away from frontline police officers, which we need. And Amana, the external auditors, Grant Thornton, also highlighted that MOPAC and the Met have had significant weaknesses in achieving value for money when it comes to procurement, noting the £163 million overspend on an IT system that was not legally compliant at launch. What measures have been implemented to ensure that this procurement of wretched electric vehicles is not a costly exercise in order for the Mayor's net zero ambition to be realised?
Apologies, Assembly Member Hall. I'm not sure what period that external audit report relates to and which specific programme it's being referenced, but I think your question's more about how we're going to manage the procurement of any electrification assets and how we're going to ensure that we meet value for money. So as I've mentioned, it's a relatively modest amount that's been put aside. That said, against the MOPAC scheme of delegation, it's above the threshold that has to come to MOPAC for approval. It goes through a fairly rigorous prioritisation and assessment process within the Met before it even reaches MOPAC for review, and then ultimately with the Deputy Mayor for approval. So there are various value for money checks, and they include value for money assessments on the kind of commercial process as well, to make sure that the Met are using as competitive a process as possible to secure the most affordable route to procurement.
Okay, last question, because that money should be spent on police officers and getting the police service into a place we would like them to be. What contingency planning has been done for emergency vehicles if there are blackouts, electrical issues, or reliance on public charging infrastructure?
Across the blue light services, we've worked with government to ensure that there's always a backstop in terms of having there's basically going to be a reserve amount of fuel or petrol or diesel available, and the blue light services will always have prioritisation on that if in the eventuality if we get to those points where fleet is
well, I don't know how you do that. Fuel obviously won't work for an electric car.
No. I'm saying that there needs to be obviously contingency,
well, that's
and
what
there'll
I'm
be
asking. What are the contingencies?
Vehicle. One of the key things is that it has been agreed that there will be stockpiles of fuel in case of a blackout situation.
I have no faith at all.
We've secured, through the government collaboration that the Deputy Mayor talks about, petrol stations have committed to retaining 10% of battery capacity, specifically being held for blue light services.
This obsession with net zero will bankrupt every one of us, and it is damaging the police force very badly. Chair, you must be cross with me. I apologise. Go back to you now.
Assembly Member Cooper.
Thank you. I just wondered, can you just tell me, presumably the Metropolitan Police has a budget for replacing vehicles on a regular basis, yeah? So the choice to replace older vehicles with newer vehicles, whether they are internal combustion engine, ICE propelled, or whether they are electrically propelled, it's just a capital budget to replace vehicles. Would that be a true fact?
Yes, there is apologies, I can't remember from the top of my head the annual value of the fleet budget, but you're right, there is an annual value.
Maybe you could confirm the actual value in writing afterwards. We don't necessarily need to
not a problem.
Hear that now.
I suppose the only additional component that wouldn't have been factored into historic fleet budgets is the cost of on-site charging mechanisms.
Yeah, I was going to come to that because presumably MOPAC is overseeing this change that's going on in the Metropolitan Police, and certainly keeping a fine, close eye on the cost. So you've also got the electric vehicle infrastructure delivery programme, so there will be a separate cost for that. Then when you're running the vehicles, presumably there is a revenue element in the budget for the cost of running the current vehicles that might include filling them with petrol or indeed filling them with diesel in some cases. So you would have a value to that and you would be able to share that current cost with... there would also be a cost, of course, to running the electric vehicles, but it would be quite a lot less. And presumably, when the electric vehicles are being charged up on the rapid charging points that are being installed as part of the electric vehicle infrastructure, you've got that one-off cost, but then you have the regular filling them up, as it were, with electricity, charging the batteries. That's cheaper, isn't it? So what sort of value to that budget do you know? Or is that something you could again share afterwards?
If you wouldn't mind, it's something we can share afterwards.
Okay.
But you're right, there are various different cost elements, but ultimately savings also.
But the running costs of electric vehicles, once you've purchased them, is generally less than other vehicles. Okay, it would be fair to say.
Yes.
So do you think it's fair to suggest that moving to electric vehicles is going to bankrupt the Metropolitan Police? We're buying something that has a slightly larger capital outlay at the beginning. A lot of councils, for example, have changed their electric lights in their streets for LED, which are then cheaper to run and last for 10 years instead of being less expensive to install, and then you have to replace them all the time. Is it not analogous to doing that? You're putting in some additional costs at the beginning, but then afterwards the running costs are less?
Yeah, and it would never, I mean, as Amana previously said, the electrification of the fleet is a small fraction of the budget. It would never bankrupt the Metropolitan Police anyway.
Well, that's a relief, because I feel that some scaremongering may have entered this room on that topic. And I just wondered if you could say how MOPAC is working with the rest of the GLA, including the Mayor's electric vehicle infrastructure delivery programme, to assist the Met in that transition to electric vehicles, bearing in mind those sort of revenue and capital costs. I mean, clearly MOPAC is part of the overall GLA, so it'd be interesting to hear how that's panning out.
As I mentioned earlier, there's GLA-wide collaboration on electric fleet charging. Recently, in just December, I understand, we completed the GLA electric fleet charging scoping sprint, which tried to identify the charging requirements of the various elements of the GLA group family and establish areas of common interest and common priority. There are some really priority collaborative opportunities for the Met just from within the GLA family. So firstly, the use of TfL bus depots to allow that many of them are already electrified and they're not fully utilised overnight, so that provides an opportunity for Met vehicles, and also LFB sites where charging requirements are likely to be complementary between the LFB fleet and the Met fleet also. So those are the two, as a result of the sprint, we've identified that those are the two key priorities that from a Met perspective we're going to be exploring through collaboration.
Okay, so another aspect of blue light collaboration would apply to electric vehicles. So we're in a situation of transition, aren't we? Which obviously at some point in the past we made a transition to people having electric lights in their house instead of having gas lamps or indeed candles. Perhaps there are some Assembly members here who prefer to go back to the period when everything was rather than moving into the future when we can have something that's much cheaper to run. And we haven't even talked about electricity market reform, because I think that's one more for the Environment Committee than the Police and Crime Committee. Thank you very much for your help, and I look forward to seeing the figures for the overall budgets and allaying those concerns about the cost of these things. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We are now moving on to the next topic, which is about the Met's unused estate. We are behind, so if everyone could be aware of that, please. Assembly Member Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Just before I touch on the estate, I would like a piece of clarification on the point which has been made twice, at least, by the Deputy Mayor, regarding additional officers going into neighbourhood policing. Are these additional officers being deployed into neighbourhood policing, or are they existing officers being deployed into neighbourhood? You'll see the difference. If they're additional, they are new officers, or are they existing officers being deployed from other tasks?
No, as discussed previously at other committees, that they are a redeployment from the
So
wider...
they're not additional, they're existing.
Well, they're additional to the neighbourhood teams.
Yeah, but they're existing.
But yes, they do exist already.
They exist already.
And obviously, they are being redeployed to give additionality to the neighbourhood teams.
I get that. It's just that when we use phrases like we are seeing additional resources, we are seeing additional policing, people might be under the impression that they're getting new police officers. In fact, that was what was suggested in the manifesto.
Well, obviously, as previously mentioned in this committee, there is a continual recruitment within the Metropolitan Police Service for officers. That is continual, as I said, the additionality would be the prioritisation of the neighbourhood teams to get those uplifting dedicated ward officers and PCSOs.
Okay, so existing officers, that's very clear, not new. The Met's estate strategy identifies 4 former police stations for disposal. What role has MOPAC played in approving those disposals?
Yeah, as previously mentioned, we have regular updates on the capital programme through the IAM meeting, and it is through that meeting that the proposals around the four stations, Notting Hill Police Station, Enfield Police Station and Teddington Police Station, as well as King's Cross Police Station, have come forward.
Okay, thank you. The strategy anticipates further disposal of police buildings, including residential and not operational sites. How will MOPAC ensure that disposals do not distance policing from London's communities?
That's once again through the IAM process. I look and review what those proposals are. Some of those proposals are underused buildings like the ones that I've outlined. Some of the ones are currently being used as decant sites, while redevelopment of other sites are being taken forward and then will come forward to proposals. Some are low-use sites around previous use of sports centres. Some are residential. It's a mix, and through the proposals, as well as the annual review we'll be doing on disposals. Moreover, we'll look at that in context.
Thank you. Given the difficulties inherent in recruiting police officers to the capital, largely owing to the high cost of accommodation in the capital, which is proving a significant barrier to recruitment, do you not think it's rather short-sighted to be considering disposing residential properties as part of the Metropolitan Police estate?
I would say that it's in the context of the Mayor's wider drive to ensure that he enacts thousands of affordable homes for key workers, of which the police will be listed as eligible for that. So we're looking in regard across policies to ensure that we have an affordable estate for the Metropolitan Police Service that is fit for purpose, reaches the legal standards needs to be, as well as continuing to understand the context in which you give about a high cost in London and the affordable key worker scheme that the Mayor's putting forward in releasing thousands of homes for key workers across London will certainly help with that.
So we're disposing of properties, residential properties that we own now, with the hope that future properties might come online at some point. Seems rather bizarre.
I mean, the work that the Mayor's doing with the housing team to enable thousands of affordable homes for key workers is not a might, it's happening. And we have to make sure that we have an affordable estate.
So far?
I'm sorry, I don't have that figure in front of me, but the context of our disposals around residential properties are in a context, obviously not the easiest of decisions to make, but we need to have an affordable estate strategy. We know that one of the significant barriers of getting that strategy published previously has been affordability. So we need to make sure that the wider context of having an estate strategy which meets legal standards in having police officers in safe buildings is also important.
Okay. The Mayor's confirmed, I believe, well, actually, I know, I was there, that the 4 police stations will be sold to a buyer with community use in mind. Can you give an assurance that the Met and MOPAC will liaise with the local boroughs concerned to explore the options for these buildings?
A short answer is yes. We're looking to make sure that that wider context is understood, obviously within the legislation of best value and things, but we want to, as far as possible, enable that.
Thank you. And the Met states that equality impact assessments will be undertaken where required when it comes to disposing of these properties. How will it determine, because it does stress where required, how will it determine if such an assessment is needed?
Ordinarily, for any property disposals of that nature and any sales, that there are equality impact assessments carried out, and if there aren't, it's always something that MOPAC pick up, both in terms of our presence on the IPG and EXCO forums, and then when they come to IAM for DMPC consideration.
Thank you. And can we be given an assurance that the committee will be informed of these equality impact assessments and that they will be shared with us?
Yeah, we can do that. Yes, we can do that.
That's very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assemblymember Best, did you want to come in here?
Yeah, thanks. I'll move on from the question initial, though. Yeah, I think that was covered.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you want to
I just,
ask
in case you were confused.
supplementary to this?
Yes. Deputy Mayor, just looking at the fact that we've only got a few buildings now that we know are going to be disposed of and that we'll get a yearly review, it seems a bit like waiting on tenterhooks, especially for those of us in areas where our police stations have been closed, because obviously, naturally, it follows. I've seen it before with other stations around us. Your front counter closes, then the building has been sold off. Is there any way to get further kind of input in this beyond a year? Otherwise, it seems like every year we'll be coming back to the chopping block, wondering if our police station will be sold off or not.
I mean, I think it's important that to understand that we obviously are doing this in the context of an annual budget, and that has to be therefore assessed in that regard. I don't think it's necessarily linear that a closure of a front counter would mean a closure of a building. That hasn't been the case with the disposals this year. I think it's also, and I know this has been said to you by the Metropolitan Police, it's important to understand the context of the functionality of the wider building. But yes, currently we're looking on an annual basis.
But there would be an argument that you could tell us what's at risk or what's not, what's in the ballpark of being looked at and what's definitely not. Just because otherwise, like I say, it does seem like every year you'll be coming back expecting or looking, do we need to campaign for our police station? Is our police station at risk? And that might not be something that people have to worry about. Is there a way to get any further clarity?
I mean, you'll have seen in the estate strategy that the Metropolitan Police Service and I have set out, ambitions if we're in the context of having greater money and a prioritisation in line with the current affordability of that. So we've tried to give a bit of a wider context, but currently we're doing it on an annual basis.
Okay, so we can't give any more clarity to people than that. On the topic of the equality impact assessments, we've obviously seen now from the front counter closures that there's no way in which we can make this state strategy equal for Londoners, because some people have 24/7 access to a police station in their borough, some people have 2. Some people have limited access to a police station, and some people, like for my residents in Chingford and across Waltham Forest, we have no access at all to a police front counter. That's not equal, is it? And the estate strategy only embeds that strategy further.
As you know, the proposals around front counters did try and take in geographical data, also the amount of data they had on crime reporting. We, in MOPAC, from the first proposal to the second proposal, pushed for greater engagement and equality assessments to try and get that wider picture. You know, as Amana has pointed out, on this, on the work that we do with the estate strategy, we standardly get equality impact assessments. As you'll know, that you have to take due regard to these policies. However, it also has to be outlined in the wider context of having an affordable budget and making sure that you can prioritise priorities that we both agree on in terms of having neighbourhood policing and the work that we're doing with the Metropolitan Police, and encouraging partners to engage, both statutory and private, in enabling us to have more dedicated ward officer drop-down spaces and community
Deputy
hubs.
Mayor, with all due respect, I've asked you a question and you're not answering it again, and you're going off on a different tangent, and then the chair gets annoyed at me. I've asked you how it can possibly be equal when, dependent where you live in London, it's a postcode lottery as to the service you have. I'm asking how that can be fair and equal.
And I'm trying to answer that in terms of
you're arguing
the work
over
that
stats, and if you want to argue over stats of how we came to the decision of which councils would close, we can have that argument. But what I'm asking you is how it can ever be equal that it's a postcode lottery in London as to whether you have access to your local police or not.
And I'm answering by saying that is why it's really important that the work we're doing to ensure a prioritisation around neighbourhood policing, the work we're doing in terms of what is outlined in the state strategy in terms of an ambition to unlock 40 new community spaces, enables greater access to the very police that you've been talking to.
So everyone has equal access to the police.
We're trying to move to the policy outlined and the policy ambition in New Met for London that officers are in a 20-minute walking space of their patch, and that's the work that we're trying to work with private and public estates to enable. We've heard loud and clear that Londoners want visible policing in their community, and we're doing that in terms of prioritising that, in terms of making sure that the workforce is outlined in that, and we're trying to do that in an affordable way in terms of making sure that those spaces are also coming forward.
So every Londoner has equal access to the police?
No, I didn't say that. I said we're trying to make sure that we give due regard to those priorities in terms of an uplift in neighbourhood policing, making sure we have the most visible policing, and enabling an estate that is strategy that is both affordable but also has the ambition to bring more dedicated spaces within those communities.
You've really filibustered on basically every question I've asked you today, but the answer to that is no. No, they don't have equal access. Londoners don't have equal access, so you might as well throw the equality impact assessments in the bin, because it's not worth the paper it's written on.
Absolutely not. We would never disregard the importance of equality.
Or then let's have equality.
Everyone has access in terms of emergency response. Everyone, we're trying to make sure there's an equality of access in terms of neighbourhood teams. There's lots that we're doing to prioritise neighbourhood policing and taking that forward.
But I've asked you, I think, a few times now, does every Londoner have equal access to the police?
Assemblymember Best, sorry, Amana wanted to come in there. If we could listen to that response, please.
Apologies, I actually wanted to come in on your previous comments. I'm happy to wait. The previous question about having to wait every year to understand the disposals. I just wanted to come on back in on that. Can I I'll proceed on that. So the estate strategy mentions the 4 disposals that we've already discussed, but it also talks about ongoing redevelopment work at 2 sites. So there's currently redevelopment work taking place at Forest Gate and also at Kentish Town. And once that completes, there are 2 other areas that are likely to come forward for a disposal, and they are Stratford Police Station and Holloway Police Station. But I think you can take comfort from that, that other than that, there's nothing planned on the horizon as far as MOPAC are aware in terms of further disposals of the Met Estate.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to answer that question?
Sorry, the question on equal access to... Yeah, I mean, everyone has equal access
So everyone
in terms
can walk
of...
into their police station local to them in their borough and
No,
report
but
crime?
95% of reporting is done on phone or online, so I would say that that's the vast
16%
majority
of all rapes
of
are in person in a police station.
Well, and that is why we did that equalities assessment, and that's why the second proposal actually saw an uplift. I mean, the decision that the police have now taken to widen the access from the first proposal to make sure that there's an increase in front counters across the capital talks to that. But
Still not
we can't.
equal for all Londoners, is it? Not all Londoners have that.
No, I'm not going to pretend that they do, but they also all have equality in terms of response and the work that we're doing. You know, what we've heard from Londoners is that they want visible policing, and to be able to do that, we have to make tough
The answer's
decisions.
no, so we can leave it there. You finally answered it.
Could we? So, Assembly Member Roberts, I think you had a question to ask.
It is, and it's just been answered, which is rather frustrating. However, I was going to ask that on my patch of Richmond, Kingston and Hounslow Police front counter will remain open. Kingston Police front counter will remain open, but the Richmond Borough Police front counter will be closed in its entirety. And it was just following on from Assembly Member Best. Do you believe that Richmond residents have equal access to a police front counter the same way in which Hounslow residents and Kingston residents do? Your microphone, Deputy Mayor.
Once again, and I'm very conscious that there's a legal challenge in relation to that, so I'm limited as to what I can say.
Yes, indeed, there is, yes.
So, Chair, I'm conscious of that, but I think the Metropolitan Police Service have taken a decision that prioritises and uses data around geography, reporting, and other contextual issues, as well as in the context of a difficult budget that has led to those decisions by them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Assembly Member Cooper.
Thank you very much, Chair. Now, Deputy Mayor, hopefully these will be quick ones where you're going to say yes. As you know, we became slightly agitated as a committee about the estate strategy coming out to the policing board before it came to us. Several of us have had private meetings with your predecessor, met with you, put down mayoral questions, raised it many times here about the estate strategy and when it was going to emerge, and then emerge it did, but we weren't quite happy with the way it emerged. So I'm hoping that we are going to be kept in a better position as a committee to hear more about the progress of any further disposals and the implementation of the strategy. I just heard what Amana was saying about there are 2 stations that are currently having works at Forest Gate and Kentish Town. There may be Stratford and Holloway may come into play for disposals, but can we just be assured by you that MOPAC is going to keep us informed of any progress on disposals, the ones earmarked for disposals now, the ones earmarked for disposal potentially in the future, and the implementation of the strategy as it now goes through, it having emerged?
Yeah, I mean, I know that I said that the estate strategy would be published by the end of the year, and it was.
Yes, your predecessor told us that as well from 2017 onwards, but clearly you were more correct than she was.
And understand that we had a whole session on that. So, and the Mayor answered himself on a lot of those points. I think, yes, we're going to be doing the annual review. The decant of the two stations Amanda mentioned is the two I was thinking of when I answered Assembly Member Roberts' point. And we will be doing the annual review, and even in the run-up to the estate strategy, there was consultation by the Metropolitan Police Service with key stakeholders, as well as briefings on the estate strategy. So we will continue to look for ways that we can engage.
But this is specifically about MOPAC continuing to update this committee. I mean, if something happens in between our meetings, would you be prepared to write to the chair and alert the chair of the committee if there's some development, because we are just about to go into a period of recess from the 30th of March until the 7th of May. So if something developed during that period, would you be able to contact the chair? I'm not saying anything is going to happen, but you would be able to keep us updated.
Yeah, I mean, as we had previously stated, we have there's no current plans for this year to take any of that forward. But
sure, yeah. But as we know, sometimes current plans do change as we move forward. And the other question is about ensuring that MOPAC is, and I think Assemblymember Roberts sort of touched on this, we're talking about liaising with boroughs over disposals to community groups or something like that. But will MOPAC be ensuring transparency with Londoners about those disposals of police buildings when they're happening? If you're moving towards a point where you're doing co-location with community groups or other blue light services or with local authorities, and any impacts at all on local policing, is that something MOPAC and the Met, and if you know, that the Met will be letting Londoners know about?
Yes, I mean, I think there's a lot of ifs in that, you know, as previously stated, we do want to work with local authorities, private sector, to increase the amount of drop-down spaces and ward spaces for officers. We're really keen to hear from people that want to co-locate in those spaces to increase access, and we want to have live conversations around disposals, but in the wider context of financial capability and legislation.
Thank you. You'll understand why, having had 8 years of asking about the estate strategy from 2017, why some of us are sort of asking these questions about ongoing transparency over disposals, co-locations, decisions that are being made. Sorry, did you want to come in as well? Thank you.
The GLA has a disposals methodology and policy which MOPAC is committed to, and that the Met have also signed up to, and that requires following a set of steps when considering a disposal and particularly when enacting one. But one of the primary steps is to consider social value, and actually how a social value benefit can be essentially monetised or seen as consideration as part of the transaction. So that's something we are looking to implement, and that will necessitate liaising with community groups and engaging with the local community of the impacted site.
And does it also include liaising with us?
I don't think it does, no. But
perhaps that's a step that we could request is added in there.
But I don't see why we couldn't inform you of any update should anything that we've said today be subject to change in coming weeks or months.
I think the committee as a whole would, and I don't often speak for the committee as a whole, but I think we'd all really appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our final issue for the... My apologies, Assemblymember Garbutt, if you could be quick.
Yes, just quickly, a question that I've raised a couple of times is my concern about, just because you mentioned co-location, is the co-location of the police with other services? As we saw with police in schools, the Met themselves to this committee have said that they were inappropriately criminalising children. So I'm just worried about the Met being in things like with housing. They did. The officer that came, they absolutely did. I can check the transcript. And it's documented because they accepted the report from Liberty in its totality, which also said that they were inappropriately criminalising children. So I'm just worried about the Met being in, say, a housing association. I know in Hackney they sit with the market services, and I have had no assurance of any data sharing to make sure that we're safeguarding people so that only the appropriate data is being shared with the police. in where they're co-located with other services?
I mean, I know of the free spaces that we've done this year. One of them in Woodford is at the back of a housing office, but it's completely separate too. One is near Regent Street, was given by a private developer, but I think if I may, politely and respectfully, there's two separate issues here: co-location in terms of physical and data. I want to assure the committee that there is always the highest standards in terms of
but
data
in a co-located
sharing.
situation, people will be talking about people's cases, so the police will have access to more kind of informal information and intelligence from being in those co-located environments. Because I've seen it in Hackney where they're co-located with the market services. They literally sit in the same room.
I mean, I think there's quite a bit of speculation in that. I think that it's really, whilst I'm sure, as I said, I think the highest levels of data protection and security, and that's obviously something that we talk a lot about in terms of sharing data appropriately with other statutory services where required, is really important.
Have they been worked out for those three locations? It'd be really interesting to see how that's been, if that's detailed somewhere. It'd be really good to see that.
Two of them, I know it's very irrelevant because there's no conjoinment, but we can look at the data sharing practices in those.
Great, thank you.
But can I also say that sometimes there's obviously positives in having neighbourhood spaces together, like the one in Woodford. It being next to a housing office enables those housing officers, if the neighbours have concerns, to say round the corner is a officer space, please go and talk to them. And also, where appropriate, the work that we've been doing with the business community in having data sharing agreement is really helping us in terms of tackling things like shoplifting and retail crime.
My concern is more when it isn't a criminal situation. That's more my concern. But
I mean,
I'll
happy
go back
to
to
share
the chair.
the data
Yeah, that would
sharing.
be good. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you could write to the committee about that, in your long list of things that you're writing to the committee about, I'd be very grateful. Thank you. So we're moving on to the final issue for today, which is the policing of protests outside the Miznon restaurant, which was an incident that took place on the 9th of January. Assembly Member Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Just before I come on to that question, though, I'd just like to ask for clarification. So the figure of 4.1 million that I mentioned in the context of the EV charging has come from Table A of the Consolidated Climate Budget, where it described developing a strategy for EV charging infrastructure to support the integration of fleet battery electric vehicles, followed by a major implementation programme across the Metropolitan Police Service estate. Project Electra achieves most carbon savings by installing charging points for the initial BEV rollout as part of the current vehicle replacement programme. So that's where I got that figure from. Perhaps if you could clarify where I should have been looking for a different figure, or indeed if that figure is correct or not.
We'll include it in the follow-up.
Thank you very much. Yes, so moving on to this final topic then. So, yeah, this is to you, Deputy Mayor. So what would be your assessment of the Met's response to that recent protest outside the Miznon restaurant on the 9th of January, please?
Thank you. Obviously, the public protest is an area where the Metropolitan Police need to have operational independence. It's key to their ability to be able to police without fear or favour in that context. I know that particular protest was conditioned to be away directly from the direct space outside of the restaurant to across the road. I think, as discussed many times in this committee before, there is a constant difficult balance that the police have to try and navigate between enabling the democratic right to protest and enabling and understanding the impact that it has on the wider communities. I know that this is something that is increasingly a discussion in many areas of protest. I understand that one person was arrested on the back of that protest on the basis of incitement. So that's my understanding of that protest.
Thank you. You're absolutely right that, yes, there's always a balance to be struck between the right to protest and the right to not be harassed or intimidated. And I know I've been very critical in the past of how the much larger protests in central London on a very regular basis have been conducted and policed and so on. But that's not really what we're talking about today. But there's a world of difference between an organised protest march through central London and something like this, which was clearly targeting a restaurant purely for the basis on which it's a Jewish restaurant. That's why. Nothing to do with the government of Israel, nothing to do with the military operations in Gaza. It's purely chosen as a site to protest because it's a Jewish restaurant, and that's a whole different level of deliberate intimidation and harassment. And I think that needs to be accepted and taken very much into the context. But it's not the only time this has happened. We saw the incident in November at the St John's Wood Synagogue, and yes, again, there were conditions in place. But to allow something to happen so close to such a clearly sensitive location, and again, purely because of the nature of the religious activity that goes in that location, again, nothing to do with government action, nothing to do with policy, purely intimidation on the basis of being Jewish, and that's just simply not acceptable. And we've had reports of what happened on the day. We've had comments from two members of the House of Lords saying. There were some very aggressive, intimidating protesters, and the police simply stood there. So there's a lack of action when there's that clear harassment, intimidation, and they may have been asked to be on the other side of the road, but the restaurant, the staff had to use force to keep the door shut to prevent protesters trying to get in. It simply isn't acceptable. Could you comment on that, please?
There's a lot in there. However, what I do take, and I understand, obviously, and as I've said, how policing is done in protest has to have operational independence. I think, moreover, this is something that is a real issue. We've seen similar around protests and concerns around immigration hotels. We've seen similar around protests around areas of other religious worship spaces, including mosques. I want to clarify, Miznon's the restaurant. It's not a place of worship, but still, I understand, and I think it's those conditions on the back of the use of understanding of community tensions and impact are really important, and they've seen the police use them a number of times. It is a real difficult space, and sometimes from my briefings around operational updates, sometimes it's a real split-minute decision about action taken in a moment and action after a protest has happened. It is, as I've said at the beginning, really difficult work to make sure that the police are enabled to support or allow protests to happen in a democratic way and ensure that people aren't in fear or intimidated, and that's the line that they have to try and grapple with, and we need to try and support and understand that. And obviously there are procedures and accountability processes around that, around complaints and other things to have checks and balances.
When I've discussed these issues with the Met Commissioner, he's often said that the legal framework in which he's operating in isn't sufficiently robust, and yet one of his predecessors, Sir John Stevens, has said completely the opposite. And I know which one I would rather believe. But we've seen that it's taken the horrific incidents in Manchester and Bondi Beach for the Met to now recognise that something along the lines of globalise the Intifada is now does cross the threshold. Why didn't it before? Why did it take those horrific atrocities in order to realise what that chant means, which means very clearly kill Jews anywhere, everywhere?
I mean, first of all, I want to recognise, as part of the Jewish community myself, what an awful time it has been, and the rise that we've seen in hate crime, moreover, including anti-Semitism, is deeply concerning. And obviously, my heart goes out to the victims in the Heaton Park attack and in Sydney. To be in fear, especially around a religious holiday, is something that, you know, is abjectly abhorrent. However, I would say that there's, you know, conversations actively happening around public protests and public order and conditioning of those. The police are using the powers they have in that regard, in that framework of operational independence. I welcome the Commissioner's words on the global intifada, and also the work that has been done to understand the cumulative impact on some of those public protests.
Yeah, I also welcome that minor step in the right direction, but it's time, I think, to see words replaced with real action. So the next question that I'd like to ask is, so how is MOPAC working with London's Jewish communities to assure and demonstrate that their concerns are being taken seriously, and with a focus very clearly on actions rather than just simply words, please?
In terms of MOPAC's work, I myself regularly meet with community stakeholders from many faith communities, but with the Jewish community as one. The work that we've been doing with the Mayor's Shared Endeavour Fund, which looks to take a preventative approach to extremist ideologies of all kinds, is really important, and that definitely covers anti-Semitism as well. The work that MOPAC does with CST, which is the leading community security trust for the Jewish community, in terms of the work we do regularly in partnership with them to support places of all forms of worship and their security. Regular training we do in that space, the last one being in November. We have direct contact, indeed, on the Sunday of that awful Bondi Beach attack. I was in direct contact with CST and other members of the community, and as well as the Metropolitan Police, to ensure that they were taking, and they were patrols, reassurance patrols, reviewing the intelligence data, assuring that the wonderful Hanukkah celebrations that happened in the days afterwards were possible, and working with CST to make sure that that happened.
I know the work of CST very well. I visited their head office just a few weeks ago, and I would suggest that all members should take up opportunities like that, because they're doing incredible work.
It's got a great gym.
But those actions, do you think they're working? Are they having a real demonstrable effect on increasing the confidence and reassurance that Jewish communities are feeling?
I know that obviously the work that we're doing, moreover, with Londoners to increase trust and confidence is really a key intrinsic part of the work we're doing. It's why it's in the police and crime plan, and it's something that needs to be actively tended to, and I regularly push in my oversight role for the police to make sure they're doing that and engaging. CST have said they reflect that they have good relationships with the Metropolitan Police Service, but in their recent reports there's further challenge and concerns, especially around NFAs of hate crimes, and that's a piece of work that we need to be doing overall in terms of hate crimes, and it's why MOPAC funds the Hate Crime Support Service, to further understand that.
There certainly are big challenges ahead, and you know, looking to polling from Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, where they've found that that fewer than 1 in 10, so 8% of British Jews feels the authorities are doing enough to address anti-Semitism. 88% say they're not, and particularly on policing, those figures are 14% think the police are doing enough, 83% are not. So a fairly staggering picture there. And just to finish, in relation to the St John's Wood synagogue protest, say it wasn't a protest, it was deliberate intimidation. Again, the CAA have said that not only have police chiefs abysmally failed to combat anti-Semitism over the past 2 years and midwifed an explosion of extremism in our country, but they cannot even protect Jewish institutions in Jewish neighbourhoods from the mob. So I just raised that to really make it so obvious there is so much more work to be done here. I think the Met is failing, I think MOPAC is failing, I think the Mayor is failing, and I say the time for words is over. It's time for action.
Once again, Assembly Member Wilson, those aren't words. The Mayor's investment in the Shared Endeavour Fund, the hundreds of community activities that happen daily in challenging extreme ideologies is key to being a preventative approach to that. The work that we do regularly with CST to prevent and train the protection of worship spaces, that's not words. Those are training sessions that happen within our community. The engagement that we do regularly with our community partners to hear their insights and to make sure, as I've just said, the concerns around NFAs, the work that we do to support the hate crime support service, that is directly supporting victims, but also feeding in the work that we need to do to turn the tide on the hateful, divisionist ideology that is rising across the country.
Well, let's see if next year's figures in this round of polling show an improvement. I won't be holding my breath, though.
Thank you. Assembly Member Hall.
Thank you, Chairman. Deputy Mayor, I am not Jewish, but I am so ashamed of how our Jewish community feel living in London. We have seen police officers move them because wearing a Star of David, they can't wear their kippas going out. Their children going to school have got to be locked away in order to keep them safe. None of them feel safe. I know very few Jewish people that feel safe. And yet they're living in our country and we're not looking after them. It's an obscenity. It really is. They have to listen to these chants from the river to the sea, the Intifada. We hear all of that and it carries on. The pro-Palestinian mob make the Jewish community in London scared, so much so that they don't even come into central London. That's unacceptable, isn't it?
I think it's completely unacceptable for any person from any community to feel unsafe in our city. I recognise definitely some of the things that you say from my own community, and I think we need to make sure that we're doing more the work that the Mayor has been doing through his Love and Wanted campaign, the unequivocal way in which he talks about making sure that protests take due regard to the impact, the negative impact that they are having on the Jewish community is really important in terms of, you know, we're in a context, moreover, where we're seeing a lot of hateful ideology in a lot of spaces, and we need to be doing all we can to tackle that. And I as I've mentioned previously, the work that we're doing in the Shared Endeavour Fund in MOPAC, the work we're actively doing with places of worship are really important interventions in that space. You know, I think it's obviously right that in a democratic society people are able to protest, but that can never, you know, it's really also important that hateful incitement of hatred, and when that breaches, it needs to be done peacefully, lawfully and ethically.
Deputy Mayor, it's gone way past that. It's gone way past that. A Jewish restaurant was targeted in this instance. A Jewish restaurant. This isn't an ideology or anything. It's a religion. Jewish people are being targeted. And this Love and Wanted stupid campaign at £1 million would actually rather more policing these wretched people away from restaurants. What's that going to do for that chap's restaurant? People are going to think, oh, I better not go there. It's been targeted several times before. This is not acceptable. in anybody's world, this is unacceptable. You may speak many warm words, etc., and everybody may say, oh, we're trying to do something about it, but nothing's being done about it. If you're Jewish in London, generally you are very scared. And I'll leave it there, Chair, but this is totally unacceptable. And it's, I'm afraid, down to the police. We've got to do something about this. And I expect the Mayor to actually take this as a challenge and deal with it, because no community should ever have to put up with what the Jews in London have to put up with.
I agree, and that's why the work that the police have been doing with the Jewish community around the conditions around certain protests and protests repeatedly happening in the same place, and the impact that that's having on the community, or in outside particular religious buildings at a particular time, have led to conditionality. As I said previously, it's really important that obviously in a democracy people are able to protest, and even in this instance, the police action conditionality to move it away from the right site. I think we need to give real due regards to the impact that it's having on people and intimidation. And I know that one arrest did happen at that protest, and I endeavour to continue to work with the Jewish community to hear those concerns.
Deputy Mayor, we're in
and
a
make
world,
sure the Metropolitan Police Service.
We're in a world where if you
hear it
write
too.
a tweet, then God help you, you could end up in prison. We're in that sort of world at the moment. But actually being Jewish doesn't really matter so much, because, you know, you can't really go into London because you're terrified. You have to lock your children behind locked doors at school. You can't really wear a kippah if you're a bit nervous, and lots of people are. You're told not to wear the Star of David. You know, Jewish people are under that sort of regime. But God help anybody if they write a bad tweet, because before you know where you are, you're in deep trouble with the law. This is totally unacceptable, and it has to change. Not warm words, not stupid things like the Love and Joy Fund or whatever it is for £1 million. Something has to be done to protect our Jewish community, and I will not stop putting a fight against you for this, because the police should be doing more to help this particular community. I don't know why the Jews are always left out. If this was another community, let me tell you, something would be being done. But because it's Jewish people, it's not, and it is unacceptable.
I think that that's a really awful diagnosis of what's happening. I have said that, you know, and the Mayor, moreover, has repeatedly said that in terms of protests, they should be happening peacefully and lawfully, and to really think, especially after the awful attacks that has happened, about their actions and the impact that they're having in the Jewish community. As I reiterated, the work that was done in collaboration with the Jewish community right after the awful attack on Bondi Beach, to ensure that the Mayor's funded Hanukkah lighting happened in Trafalgar Square, the work that we do regularly with CST. I can't tell you, as a Jewish person myself, that I don't recognise that fear. I do. I've heard it from my community, as I heard it yesterday from the Muslim community, as I've heard it from the Sikh community. We live in really divisive times, and it's really important that we are doing all we can as a Mayor administration to not only work to prevent those extreme ideologies, but also to show that the diversity of London is a brilliant thing that we want to hold dear, and fund ways of ensuring that people feel loved and wanted.
Thank you. Assembly Member Garbett. No, sorry, I've got you down as a quick. Do you want to? No, thank you. Assembly Member Cooper.
I mean, I think we've been hearing some fairly strong statements from people around the room who are perhaps not as involved in their local Jewish communities as others are around the table, and I think it's fair to say that over the years there have been some issues with the Metropolitan Police, with its relationships with a long list of communities. I think we would accept that. I can see that you're nodding. I mean, if we go back, even to yesterday, as you were saying, you can talk to people who are Muslim, who are Sikh, from many backgrounds, who have had difficulties with their relationship, to say nothing of a lot of people from the various different black communities across London who also often feel targeted and picked on by the police, and have done over the years. And the LGBT community, who are still, I would say, in the main, pretty reticent to come forward and have too much to do with the police after the Stephen Port murders, where the Metropolitan Police absolutely did not cover themselves in glory. But the Met has had a whole series of IAGs, haven't they, independent advisory groups. Has that helped, do you think, to get that understanding, not just at the top, but on, for the officers on the street?
I think that the work that you rightly point out across the 9 protected characteristics to ensure that we have a Metropolitan Police Service that protects all Londoners is exceptionally important. The work that we continually do in MOPAC and through the London Policing Board. Yesterday I was in the London Policing Culture Committee, directly questioning the Deputy Commissioner on not only its ability to protect all Londoners, but also internally to protect its own police force across those characteristics as well, is really important. The work the MOPAC does through the public attitude survey to understand in granular detail how trust and confidence is affecting different communities is really important for us to push that work with the Metropolitan Police Service even further. You rightly point out the LGBTQ community in having low trust and confidence. The disabled community also. I think we are working with the Met in regards to this, and they're really open. In New Met for London, there's a whole chapter on becoming an inclusive organisation, and we're really pushing them to continue to go further, because we definitely want a police service where all Londoners have no qualms about calling the Metropolitan Police Service when needed.
And that's not just about the policing of demonstrations. And I know that there has been some discussion as to whether or not the way in which some of the demonstrations about what's been happening in Gaza have been policed, and whether there's going to be some changes to the way in which they're policed. But I think for most people, being able to go to a local restaurant, going to a local shop and not seeing graffiti that's been put up on the side of a shop. There's one case that was drawn to my attention of, somebody graffitiing a noose hanging from a scaffold with a Star of David within the noose, obviously hanging Jews by that sign. It shouldn't take a long time for the police to respond to ordinary situations where we're going about our normal business, or if we're going to synagogue, that people should feel safe and comfortable to be able to go to their local synagogue or anything else that they want to do.
Yes, I strongly agree, Assemblymember Cooper.
Okay.
Yes, and that goes for all faiths.
Assemblymember Roberts and I are part of a WhatsApp group that, alerts the police. It's got members of the police in the WhatsApp group. We've encouraged them into it. I certainly did. Our borough commander also encouraged some of the local superintendents. It's got the council leaders. It's got the assembly members. And then it's got a wide selection of rabbis and other local prominent people in the Jewish community. So it acts as an alert system across southwest London. And it's replicated across the whole of London. I've talked to my friend who's involved in the Board of Deputies. Is that the kind of thing that you welcome the police getting involved in at a very early stage, so they can start to understand what's happened and nip things in the bud?
Yeah, I think that obviously, and that's something that you'll see in New Met for London too, partnerships of all kinds are exceptionally important, and engagement and insight from communities in London is something that definitely, I mean, as previously said on the Sunday, I similarly was in contact with the Board of Deputies, and it is really important, and I'd say it's important across all faith groups and other protected characteristics, and the work that the police have done, as we've previously mentioned, with the IAGs, getting those groups to have direct insight into policy is important in that regard.
And also, there's been a push from some Jewish groups, synagogues, and also from Muslim groups and mosques to bring people together to break bread and to spend time listening to each other. Is that something that you would welcome? And I have seen the police involved in some of these, there's a particular word that I want to use, but, cross-religion sessions where people are actually seeking to understand rather than stand on street corners and shout or insults?
Absolutely. The interfaith work that you're talking about is really good, a really important part of, I think the only way to combat ignorance is understanding. So the more that we can get communities together to understand what's different about each other, but also more importantly, what we have in common is really important. And as previously mentioned, the work we do in the Shared Endeavour Fund talks to that, as well as the work with Love and Wanted. I think that I saw a really excellent example of the work that the police have been doing in that regard near Stratford, really bringing together different community groups, faith groups, to get those kind of insights. So definitely.
Finally, turning to the matter of interfaith was the word I've completely forgotten there, thank you. Turning to the matter of symbolic and also prominent people taking a role. I know that the Mayor has spent a lot of time talking privately with the Jewish community, also very public gestures like the giant Hanukkah menorah in Trafalgar Square. Do you think it's important that all party leaders, and I'm very pleased to hear Assemblymember Wilson talking so positively about the work of the campaign against anti-Semitism and how important it is to support the Jewish community, but there are those in his party, as there have been in my party, who I've sat on bodies and had them removed. But is it really important that people who are in positions of leadership are seen to always challenge all forms of discrimination, including anti-Semitism?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we work every day to make sure that Londoners are safe, and that's all Londoners. And so one of the reasons I was so happy to come to work here is because of the work that the Mayor has done to actively show leadership in creating a London that I love living in, the diverse city that we can learn about all faiths and all backgrounds from around the world, that makes our city such a brilliant and prosperous city.
Thank you. And there may not be words that some Assembly members appreciate, but I can tell you now that talking to quite a number of people across my constituency, the Loved and Wanted campaign and that terminology does hit the spot in a positive way for them. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm aware that there were 3 other Assembly members who wanted to come in, and unfortunately we are now out of time. Sadly, it is an issue that we probably will be coming back to in the future, so if you could save your questions for them. I'd like to thank our guests for attending this morning and for your answers to our questions. Can I ask the committee to note the report and the discussion? Can I ask the committee to note the monthly report from MOPAC? Can we also delegate authority to me as chair in consultation with party group lead members to agree any output arising from the meeting? Can I ask the committee to note its work programme and the additional activity undertaken since its last meeting, namely a visit to the Mulberry Academy in Shoreditch? The next meeting of the committee is scheduled to take place on Wednesday, the 11th of February 2026 in the Chamber in City Hall. I have no urgent business, so that concludes today's meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.